Some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered.
What is Shapiro's?
It's a deli. Have you been there? That was yeah.
I've been there.
Food? And of course, we had to sit next to some old lady coughing up a lung the whole time next to us. It ruined the whole meal. We were all bummed out. I don't know how COVID didn't get her.
Brady screwed it up by staying good.
Yeah, that jerk.
By winning Super
titles.
Bowls. Yeah, you know.
I didn't enjoy
Much
it.
to the chagrin of Mike
I didn't
Dussault.
care for it, you know. Got that kind of positioning where if you go too high, it stops dead in its tracks. And he was just like, and just pushed it, no problem. Then you see the other guys kind of go.
Sound effects. I was 20 years in a row doing that thing.
There's a plaque on the Weber Grill.
No doubt. I got a
what I'm
problem
saying.
with that.
Did AJ Brown the same thing?
Like little Paul Perillo wearing Patriot footy pajamas, fanboy, is really upset with that.
Potential Mac Jones trade to the Raiders. If the Raiders are willing to offer the number 7 pick.
Nope.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Fueled by Duncan.
All right, welcome into Patriots Unfiltered. It is Deuce in the host chair today. Unfortunately, Fred got boss man things to do, so it's just the three guys. It's just the three of us today.
Is he even in, or is he playing hooky?
I think he's working.
Yeah.
I think he's definitely working. I saw him. He was doing stuff, but yeah, just us. The girls are off. We got to shout out Emma Green the last day here, so they're taking her out to lunch. So it'll just be us here.
You will be missed.
You'll be
Emma,
missed,
you will
Emma.
be missed.
Yeah, she wanted. We were gonna play some Sarah McLachlan music for her, but we couldn't get the rights to it in time. So Evan's just
Want me
gonna
to just
sing
sing
some
it?
real quick. I will remember you. Yeah. All right, there we go. So plenty on the docket today because we got free agency coming up. Of course, the huge re-signing news this morning for the Patriots, which we'll jump into.
Should we get into the big Jets trade?
We get Jets trade, a Jets release and a Jets trade. Sounds like they're putting their ducks in a row.
Yeah, I'm annoyed.
About
Adam Schefter just.
what was he
How
doing?
many times is he going to do that?
Not the trade you thought it was.
Like, he did the same thing during the season about something. I forget now, but that's his little trademark.
It's his shtick.
Doesn't work.
Yeah.
Doesn't work.
Doesn't
just do what
not
you
funny.
do.
Anyway, the Jets made a trade for
Chuck Clark. Yeah.
which is I think
Starter.
a good trade for them.
Tough guy. They had some depth at safety, so they're
Give up a 7th round pick for him, something like that,
for a guy who can start. I mean, that's
and let
seems like a pretty good
the
move.
the Braxton Berrios hype train begin.
It's got to be tough.
I'm in.
Tough letting go of a player
I'm
like
on the
that.
train.
You take him. Yeah. You I mean,
I just think if Jacoby walks in free agency, just adding another body that can play the slot role is not a bad idea. I'm not saying he's the answer, but it's just adding another guy that can come in and compete for some snaps there.
I'll say this:
ringing endorsement.
I would much rather have Braxton Berrios than Slade Bolden.
Yeah, that's true.
At least Braxton
I would
Bears
take
NFL
that.
player.
But
He
we
can
were
run.
Yeah.
we were diving a little bit into Berrios. And Paul, I mean, I'm sure you don't remember. I don't know how he looked in 18, and then 19 was the second year here, I think, and basically got beat out by Jacoby. I guess would
And
be.
Gunner.
I think he had some, and Gunner. That's a good one too.
He was hurt a lot too. He
Yeah.
was banged up in
That
in
first
summer.
year.
Even that Miami kid. What's that Miami kid's name?
Oh,
The UDFA out of
that.
Miami.
Oh yeah, Fred loved him. What was
Jeff
that?
Thomas, maybe.
Yes.
Oh, God.
Yes.
Everybody loved him. Another one. Yeah, Fred was all aboard that hype train too.
We kept calling him like Jeff something else.
The entire Patriots Twitter, Jeff Antonio Brown Thomas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fast, right?
So Evans with it's. I know Fred likes to think like, well, how do you come up with these guys? How do you remember? No, there's validation. There's at least one other person that remembers the hype.
Insane hype.
For a guy that was like,
Did he even make it into camp? Like, I feel like we didn't even really
No.
see him.
I don't think he ever got in uniform.
No. And then he's been bouncing around USFL, XFL,
XFL.
one of those, and he's not even an impact player in that league.
It's disappointing. I had really high hopes after what Fred told us about him. Of course, the Patriots, I was being a little facetious at the top. They did resign James Ferentz, who I guess he's been with the Patriots the last 5 years, has filled in a bunch, 3 starts last year. So, I don't. People get worked up about these ones. I'm just like, this is
Who
just
gets
like
worked up about those?
there are people on Twitter, Paul. I'm surprised you didn't see them. If they're going to keep doing it this way, I was like, these are just like housekeeping things to make sure that you have a football
You got to
team
have some
that,
depth.
like, I
in
mean,
your offensive line. There's a guy that they know.
can play all 3 spots. And,
In
a pinch.
in a storm, you can put him in, and he won't cause it to completely collapse. Is he going to get the job done? Impeccably? No. but it's not going to completely collapse on you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what's wrong with having guys like that?
Definitely has some maybe future coach potential as well in him too.
Family of
With
coaches.
that last name?
I know he helped a lot last year in that department with the staff being what it was, and he was someone that was involved a little
the
bit
staff being what it was.
There you go.
I mean,
Yeah.
and a little bit of an
It's a good
interesting
phrase.
deep dive. His dad was one of the originators of the wide zone and bringing that, from college into the pros, and from the pros to college, actually, because I think Pittsburgh was the first one to really kind of start it, and then he was among the first in the late 70s, early 80s, I think, to kind of bring it to the NFL. So when we were also obsessed with wide zone last year, I was like, oh, the Ferences there. I mean, he should know. So I guess
Captain
it
Kirk.
serves to the
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, a guy like Chasen Hines last year, who we didn't get to see a whole lot of, or Cody Rutt. Yeah, I mean, those guys in year 2 are to the point where they're more attractive candidates to fill the backup interior roles.
Yeah.
Right, and then you can do what you've done countless times to Ferentz and let him go, and probably be pretty comfortable with the ability to bring him back if you need to.
Yeah, I think Chasen Hines is a good one. I mean, he kind of like body type on Onwenu, kind of more of a thicker guard, like that kind of
Seems it.
a little bit more of a size. But with Onwenu being a free agent, I thought that's an interesting, as you approach the draft, we're talking about some interior guys. Do they take a flyer, on an interior developmental guy if they're not that high on Hines to, potentially ensure if Onwenu were to leave? So, I mean, it's, it's another one of those like little draft things where you're like, yeah, they could see them grabbing one of those guys. I mean, it'd be great, though.
And they have 11 picks, right?
11 picks.
Projected, yeah. We haven't gotten the official.
Yeah, projected.
We'll get it
we
in
don't
the
know
next
for
few
sure
days.
about the comp picks. But with 11 picks, you're going to pick 2 or 3 offensive linemen.
Yeah.
So that's the way it should work. And rather than, and I know I rant on this all the time, but rather than, a big money extension for Shaq Mason and a franchise tag for Joe Thuney, who were both excellent players, Michael Onwenu, I think, is an excellent player. He does a really good job. But, you would ideally be able to let those guys walk because you have, Onwenu was a 6th-round pick.
Yep.
Chasen Hines, I think, was a 6th-round pick too, right?
Yeah, like day 3.
Hopefully he, shows the ability. Now, I'm not saying that all you guys – look, there's a lot of Corey Hilliards and Clint Oldenburgs that get drafted down there that don't ever come in the NFL, right?
John Halapio.
Yeah. Although he did actually stick in the NFL with the Giants.
He did. You're right.
I'm not suggesting that every offensive lineman you take in the 5th, 6th, and 7th round is a potential Michael Onwenu. No, that's a high-end hit, Michael Onwenu in the 6th round. But you got to hope that Chasen Hines is at least, or someone like that. It doesn't have to be him specifically.
Do you remember, though, I mean,
can fill in.
And then when you was, this is starting to blend together. He was 2020?
Yes.
Yeah, 2020. Yeah. Weird camp, of course. But I just remember instantly. You could just kind of tell, I think this guy can play. They're moving him around a little bit. He just seems to be out there with the top group a lot.
Well, that's what you can
just
tell.
Just early on, it seemed like, until you get to one-on-ones. And
it's so funny. You watch and you're just like, well, and we always have our phraseology to keep us out of trouble in terms of don't talk about starters and whatnot.
Yeah.
He's in a group that included David Andrews and, so you saw him out there getting high-end reps. And then, the flip side of that would be Ronnie Perkins, who for 2 training camps I don't think has taken more than 5 reps with anybody that you would ever have heard of. So in your mind, you're like, well, this guy's having a really good camp, this guy's having a bad camp. But in reality, you're just basing it on who they're playing with.
Yeah, Ronnie Perkins, huh? What did you think of him coming out?
I liked him coming out, but I wasn't 100% sure about his fit in a 3-4.
Yeah.
He was an even front defensive end, hand in the dirt kind of guy, 4-3 end. And then they brought him here, and they wanted to transition him to a stand-up outside linebacker, which has been the goal. And that's a little bit of a transition to be up on your feet versus with your hand in the dirt. And I don't think it's necessarily gone swimmingly in that sense of it. I think it's a little
gotten hurt.
That hasn't helped. I don't know. I mean, you would like to think, kind of along Paul's point, with Josh Uche coming up and Anthony Jennings coming up and that class coming up, that a guy like Ronnie Perkins, if you don't want to overextend to bring Josh Uche back, then Ronnie Perkins is supposed to be a top 100 guy. That's the next guy in line to bring that position, that next wave at that position. So I think that the bummer that if you're a Patriots fan right now, and this is sort of, I think, a good way to putting it, is that they used to be able to be a year ahead of these types of things, but now they have so many immediate holes on the roster that they can't take a first-round edge to be a year ahead of Judon and Uche and Jennings and those guys being in contract years, and Judon maybe getting up there in age. You can't do that anymore because you need a left tackle to play tomorrow, and I think that's just where they're at. And back in the past, I hear that a lot of, why aren't the Patriots a year ahead of things anymore like they used to be? And I think it's because they have too many holes in the immediate to be planning for the future like that.
But and that's what the difference was. And I totally agree with Evan's entire assessment there, is when it was going at its best, when the program was operating at its peak efficiency, that's what it was. It was, we're going to draft Nate Solder in the first round, knowing that Matt Light's still going to be here. And we can take our time inserting Nate Solder into start. Now, he ended up playing a lot because I think that was the year Seabass got hurt.
Yeah, he played right tackle.
Right, so he ended up playing a lot anyway. But the idea is my first-round pick might be the third tackle this year. And that's okay because I'm good. And when I'm drafting like that, and then you went to that gap, from whatever it was, 17, 18, 19, 20, didn't get a lot of, high-impact players out of those drafts. Those are the guys that should be playing big roles. And now I think you did have, a couple of players out of 20. You get Duggar and Uche and Onwenu. Those guys are coming up now. It's quick. It happens fast. So you have to figure out, is it going to be like it was back in the first part of the dynasty or the second part of the dynasty when you had trouble replacing those guys?
Yeah, you brought up, Vollmer and Solder and the transitions at tackle, and I think it's something that Evan and I were talking about. We just, by the way, we're doing new mock drafts. We did a video and everything, but we were, I think that's what we're trying to figure out is the first piece of it is, what is Trent Brown? Is Trent Brown a left tackle? Is Trent Brown a right tackle? Is Trent Brown headed out of town? The second part of it is, do you hit free agency? Do you invest big money in one of these guys that's on the market? And we've talked about plenty of those. And then lastly, you'll get to the draft. And how do you said you drafted a guy who might be the third tackle in the first round. This year, if you're taking a tackle in the first round, you don't have that luxury. You might have to put him right into the mix. So I think that's the problem. It feels like a math problem that you're trying to solve with all those different issues. And where are we going to end up? Is it going to be, Trent Brown on the left with another veteran on the right, and hey, we've got a rookie that we took in the third round that's maybe going to develop? Or is it all new tackles? It's a new guy that we signed in free agency on the right, and we draft a left tackle. There's just so many options right now, and I think that's really one of the key pieces of it. Even though, as I said on the show, I'm not, oh God, they've got to fix it. I think they need tackles and they need to address the position, but I don't feel like that's like the biggest problem that they need to get right. I think no matter what they do, they'll be able to get at least okay play that they can win with if they have the right pieces at receiver, on the defensive side of the ball, etc.
I just think you worry about a guy like Broderick Jones, for example, to put some names out there. Broderick Jones got 19 career starts at Georgia. He's not somebody that has a ton of experience playing football. And if you're thinking about drafting a guy in the first round that needs to play immediately, like that's why I think they gravitate, especially in the trenches, to those Senior Bowl guys, is because those guys are 4-year players in college. They've made 30 plus starts. Like a guy like Skoronski, I think, has 39 starts under his belt, and you're coming in with a little bit more seasoning. Broderick Jones is a freak athlete, great in space, just one of those guys that pops off the film at you, but he's a little bit of a project. He's going to take some developing, and if you're going to put him right into the starting lineup, then that might be a bumpy rookie season for him. So a guy like Skoronski, a guy like Anton Harrison, some of these guys that have played, Darnell Wright, Senior Bowl guys, the guys that have been in it for a while now, I think are where they tend to gravitate towards in that position. Cole Strange, Senior Bowl guy. I don't think that they're going to look at these guys that just don't have a ton of starts under their belt to then go immediately play as rookies. I could be totally off with that, but that's just the sense that I get from them with linemen, especially, is they want grown men at linemen. Like, they don't want guys that, are still filling out or still have a lot of technical flaw or something like that. They're going to take a lineman early. It's going to be a guy that's been there and done it.
Yeah, what was interesting to me, I think we mentioned when we were in Indy, we had a couple beers with Seabass, which was just super fun. It was interesting, though. He said to me, he was like, I think Solder was almost too tall too tall to play, which is something I had never heard. And he said, just he had real trouble at times with guys getting underneath him. So
Pad level.
just interesting little bits. And again, he talked about the arm length thing that he didn't really see when it would matter, other than when he said Jason Pierre-Paul, which I think we all remember that he was quite the handful in Super Bowl 46. But just tough decisions. And I think we'll get a lot of clarity next week. Maybe not clarity, but at least a direction of where they're going to go, or kind of like.
I am curious to see if they have anybody, like the year that it was Stephon Gilmore as an example. Immediate bang,
Adalius.
Or if it's sort of more like last year where it's quiet and then some secondary guys. Terrence Mitchell.
Yeah.
It was one of the first guys I remember last year. So I'm curious to see if they tip their hand as to what exactly the approach will be, because I think they could go in a number like that. When you were talking about all the tackles, Evan, do you guys think free agency, like a Mike McGlinchey, is a realistic possibility?
Yeah, I do. I think that. To go off like the Stephon Gilmore thing, I have a couple guys in mind that I think fit that mold that might happen. Now, I don't know about McGlinchey because his play has seemed to decline a little bit over the last couple of years, and I think they would much rather invest in a guy that's going up instead of kind of leveling out or going down. To take that Stephon Gilmore, right, is somebody that's going to get better over the life of the contract that they're giving him. So I look at Caleb McGarry, who just came off a great year in Atlanta, Jawan Taylor, the Jaguars' right tackle, but I think a lot of these guys are right tackles. Orlando Brown's really the only prize that's going to play left side. So that's the big thing with our mock drafts was I really feel like if they're going to shore up one side of it, it's probably going to be right tackle, whether it's flipping Trent back to the right side or rolling with Trent and McDermott over there on the right side, or maybe they sign one of these tackles. But the one guy that I was mentioning upstairs a little bit, I think that Stephon Gilmore type signing, and it does so happen to be another Bill, and it's Tremaine Edmonds. Like, I just feel like he's the type of guy that fits that mold to a T, that checks every single box that they could ever ask for a linebacker. It's a position that they have not really fully gone all in on, I wouldn't say fixing, but at least upgrading. And you put him next to Bentley, who's just a steady workhorse where he's supposed to be when he's supposed to be there, and now you have a flyer, a guy that can just fly around the field and do some freakish things. I could definitely see them.
And I like him, but Roquan Smith, $18 million he got right with Baltimore.
Yeah,
you're looking at like $20 million.
Yeah,
for Tremaine Edmonds. Is that something that I personally don't? Think that's something the Patriots are going to be interested in.
I would take
and I love the player.
Right. Yeah. I feel
similarly. I don't have anything to say against what you said.
I think, it's everything I kind of, think this defense needs, along with the shutdown corners, just a little bit more instinctual middle linebacker who can, deal with the mobile quarterbacks. I think that's when they struggle the most. I love it on paper. It's just like, man, and I hate to do this. It's like, well, they got Bentley. They just signed Tavai. I think that's what they like. I think that's what they're going to stick with. But, I'd be all for it. I just think that
player. Those two guys are exactly who you'd want to pair with a guy like Tremaine Edmonds, because you can say to Tremaine Edmonds, just go get the ball, right? Like, just follow the ball, because Bentley and Tavai are going to play the do your job defense, right? Like, they're going to do that side of it. So you put Tavai and Bentley and Edmonds out there together, and Edmonds now all of a sudden is almost just a free player that can just fly around and hit whatever he sees, right? And go and get the football. So I don't know. I look at that, and another guy that was a high draft pick, tested through the roof at the combine, checks a lot of the same boxes that Stephon Gilmore did, and I think that maybe they look at him and say, the Bills got a ton out of him, don't get me wrong, but here we know exactly how we're going to use him, and maybe we can really get that all-pro potential out of him in that next step.
So, Snarky Paul?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Sort of made an appearance in his own head yesterday.
The devil on your shoulder.
I'm on Twitter, and I saw, like, there was, I forget where it emanated, but out of Buffalo, it certainly looks like Edmonds and Poyer are going to be available. Like, I think that Buffalo is to the point where I think that they realize that they're probably not going to be able to retain them. Now, to me, Edmonds is the much more interesting guy because of age. I think Poyer is a great player, but he's on the other side of 30. Edmonds is in his prime. And, I'm reading, sort of Patriots Twitter, and I'm not assigning it to anybody because I'm going to be honest. I've talked to you guys about this. I have random people that pop up in my timeline all the time who I don't know who they are. So my guess is they get there because other people who I do follow like it or retweet it or something like that.
Algorithm.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the way it works. And I saw 3 or 4 different things. It's all coming apart. They lost their defensive coordinator. And I'm thinking to myself, for the last 5 years, all I've heard is Buffalo is choking dogs and their defense sucks. They can't stop the run. They can't come up big in a big spot. They can't win a big game in the playoffs. But now 2 of their players on defense are available and the defensive coordinator's out, and this is the time for the Patriots to pounce. Like, you can't have it both ways.
Right.
They don't suck, and then you want the players. Like, one of those things has to be wrong, right?
I mean, I would say I want their
Now,
players.
I would take Tremaine Edmonds as a player. I don't think he sucks.
No.
Let me be on record to say that
And-
I think he's a good player.
And putting my Patriots fan on, I'm like, oh, thank God this is kind of like breaking up because we haven't been able to solve this defense. I mean, they
Right, but you didn't
we got
spend the
no
last 5
answers.
years telling me how much they sucked,
Right,
which is what a lot of Patriots fans do.
I will say this about Buffalo though, and I'm not going salary cap, but like they have to churn out some of these guys, right?
course.
And they have to replenish some of it. And now I think you do learn, if you're Buffalo, how hard sustainability is, and not just. And I know they haven't even won anything yet, but just in terms of always being a contender and always being at the top. I think Josh
And I will
Allen,
say the same thing that I said about the Patriots. As long as Brady's healthy, the Patriots will always be relevant. As long as Allen is healthy, the Bills will always be relevant.
Right, I'm right
Now,
there
I'm not
with you.
telling you they're going to win the Super Bowl. Like, Brady made you win the Super Bowl 6 times. That's,
Right.
incredible. But when he wasn't healthy, you didn't make the playoffs.
Those
Like, that's the
margins
difference.
are those margins though. Sometimes in the playoffs, when they're going up against Kansas City or they're going up against Cincinnati, losing guys like Tremaine Edmonds and then not being able to draft a viable replacement for Tremaine Edmonds, those are the things that can kind of sneak up on you in a playoff
And I'll
game.
give you another
You got Drew
example.
Sanders.
They thought they made a couple of those individual moves that were going to help them get over the hump, right? They signed a guy like Jay Crowder,
Jamison
Crowder.
basketball player.
Yeah.
Deuce wouldn't know.
Jamison Crowder,
Hoopster.
to sort of fill, a very specific role. Von Miller to fill a very specific. They didn't have those guys.
Right.
When it counted, when the playoffs came, they were both injured and out, and any kind of impact that they were going to make to get them over the hump, that's how hard it is. Like, to Evan's point on the margins.
Yeah.
Like, I agree. I'm not a salary cap guy, as everybody knows, but that doesn't mean you can just keep re-signing every player. At some point, you run out of money.
Yeah.
Not cap space, money.
And
if it's going to cost you $20 million per year in money to sign a guy, that's going to be hard to do. Like, these owners don't all just have bottomless pockets.
Yeah, and Brandon Beane spoke at the Combine, and I just acknowledged everything that we're saying. He's like, look, we understand we're going to be a little bit up against it the next couple of years, and, we're taking measures to do it. But I think you're right. It's about Allen, and it's about, evolving and finding those pieces. I mean, we know the Patriots went 10 years in between Super Bowls trying to, turn things over and find new pieces, even with Tom Brady. I mean, they were certainly right there, but it's a big difference, to your point, Evan, of, being there, but actually getting to the top of the mountain.
And people forget because they were so good. Like, that 10 years that they went without a Super Bowl, they were in contention every year except for the year that Brady was hurt, right?
Yep.
So they were right there every year. But there was the 07 team, comparing the 07 team and the 06 team is like apples and oranges. Now,
Especially
both
on
of them,
offense, yeah.
both of them won a lot of games. Both of them were very good, and both of them went deep into the playoffs. But the 07 team would have squashed the 06 team,
Right.
in terms of talent. And that's what, Buffalo's team probably last year would have squashed the team this year. They weren't as good. It just, the way it worked out, they weren't quite as talented. And that happens. But they were both very good.
Yeah.
And I think, again, as long as that quarterback is healthy, they're going to be relevant.
I also think it's crazy with Buffalo that you see so many of their guys talking about receivers at the top of the draft to get that 1B to Stephon Diggs. And I'm just thinking.
They were disappointed in Davis.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just thinking to myself, could we just get a Stephon Diggs? Like you guys
I'll take Gabe Davis.
Yeah, you guys want two? Like, come on,
Don't
you
be
know.
greedy,
but
Bills. Come on.
so many. The great guys that cover one. Some of the other guys that cover the Bills. I actually really like those guys. And as much as we like to rib each other about the Patriots and the Bills, but they're all mocking, Zay Flowers, Josh Downs. Now Addison might fall, and they're all.
And when you say mocking, you're saying mocking to the Bills,
Mock
not
drafts.
mocking,
Not mocking.
Yes.
not mocking
No,
the
you're
ability.
not mad. You're not mad at
No,
it. You're,
no, and I'm just thinking to myself,
Mocking is a
like,
Patriot fan thing.
you want more you want more help for the court, like this is just
Right.
But yeah, that's the mindset nowadays as they show Nyheim Hines returning the kickoff for a touchdown on the Patriots.
Guess what was the number one play of?
Well, they have Micah Hyde is in
Micah Hyde's
studio, so
giving
they're
it-
showing a bunch of Bills highlights.
And my boy Kyle Brandt, he somehow has like become Bills fan, like 1B. I don't get why he's all over them. I have to shoot him a text and be like, can you please stop?
Can you
Yeah,
win something
and the
first?
other part of the division that we kind of alluded to it with Schefter being a smartass today, with a trade for the Jets coming up. Well, I mean, it seems like based on the reporting that meeting went reasonably well with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets brass, and as Evan put it yesterday or Tuesday, playing footsie with Woody Johnson, I think you said.
Just a little under the table.
Under the table.
Just in the dark room.
I think Diana Rossini
lights,
today for
candles.
ESPN had a series of tweets indicating that it seems like it's progressing and going. It looks like it's going to happen. Now, if it was Schefter, I would say, I do not have the same faith in the reporting for others at ESPN that I do with Schefter. So I'll believe it when I see it, but this could be a significant problem. And I'm not even talking about Brady in Miami. I'm just saying if it's Tua in Miami, you haven't beaten him in 4 tries. You haven't beaten the Bills consistently when it's not a gale force wind. And now if you're going to put Aaron Rodgers with the Jets, 2 games that last year were tractor pulls with the worst quarterback on the other team that you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
You're projected as the last place team in the division.
And with Chuck Clark, which, I mean, they just traded for him as well. Like, not that he's going to – but they're making moves. And I would pose the question that I hinted at last Tuesday when this Aaron Rodgers stuff first came is, if you're Robert Kraft and you're watching the Jets make this kind of move, do you feel like – and I this is when we get into, like, the drama of, like, do you feel like the Patriots need to respond? And I hate, like, winning free agency and all that kind of stuff, but in some ways, and this might be a little bit off track, but just watching this kickoff return, like I always felt during the Patriots dynasty, there was like these special moments that would happen, like, Doug Flutie's drop kick, like these little like historical weird
That's
things.
the one you pulled out?
That's one that comes to mind.
All right, sorry. But
a meaningless play in a game they were trying to lose.
But little historical things, win streaks, like 20 games, but just
okay.
like little.
You brought it right back.
Thank you.
Mike.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
But
Good
little
job.
historical
Malcolm Butler,
things would
Doug
happen
Flutie,
within the game that you'd be like, oh my God, like they just broke another record. Like this. And I brought up the Flutie one just because it wasn't like a historical thing, but it was just like, oh, that's kind of a cool historical moment. And it just, the beat goes on for the Patriots right now. That kickoff return felt like it completely flipped. And now the special magical moment is kind of happening for the other team, and we're just kind of the roadkill that gets run over.
If you want to
as it
continue
happens.
with that, like, talk about like special moments, period. It's like the Miami Miracle, the lateral with the Raiders, the 2
Right.
kickoff returns.
Yeah.
Like they're
Great.
starting to
Yes.
pile up against you
Yes, yes.
now. You used to be the team that blocked the punt, not got the punts blocked.
Like the little bit of magic. I mean, you can't tell me that Buffalo returning the kick after everything that happened with DeMar Hamlin, all the questions of are they going to play this game? I mean, it's just that's one of the most craziest moments in NFL history right there, based on everything that had happened. And great points though, Paul. I mean, you're right. It's just and I don't want to tie it back to Aaron Rodgers a little bit of just, it's like, again, like other teams are starting to, do these things. And I hate saying you just got to make a move for the fan base. But at the same time, I'm going to feel for every Patriots fans if the Jets sign Aaron Rodgers and everybody thinks exactly what you just laid out, that what are we going to do? Are we going to wait till day 2 or 3 and we're going to fill in some holes and, we're going to go to the draft and, I don't know. It's a little bit daunting right now as we get ready for free agency, and I'm just hoping that there's a trade for DeAndre Hopkins, something like that. That moves my needle. That says, all right, we're in it. We see what these other teams are doing, and we understand that, just slow and steady isn't going to win the race anymore. We need to be bold. We need to make some moves so that we can get this thing back on track like ASAP and not, sit around and wait for Aaron Rodgers to retire now or Tua to get hurt or, Josh Allen to finally get hurt.
Well, all those things will happen. I don't know what you're worried about.
Well,
you can't say that
2024.
anymore. But I think, not to sound corny, but I don't think the Patriots believe like they used to anymore because of the quarterback. Like when you had Brady, 28-3 is like the quintessential example of it. Like when you had Brady, you always knew there was a chance. Like no matter what the score was, no matter where you were playing, no matter who was the quarterback on the other sideline. And I think that that's infectious throughout the entire team to the point where those comebacks happen. Those moments happen because it's not just Brady that is putting it on his back, but the defense all of a sudden believes a little bit more, and the offense believes a little bit more, and Malcolm Butler believes a little bit more, or whatever the case may be. And I feel like right now at the Patriots, they need that move more. So I know everybody's going to point to the quarterback, and we can go to your Lamar Jackson rant whenever you want, Mike. I know it's coming.
I wanted to tee him up too.
No, not yet. There's a good email too that's going to
and the only reason, and you guys know, like there's a lot of complicated elements to Lamar Jackson. Okay, not the least of which is that he's franchised and it costs you 2 1s. Okay, so I understand all the things, but what I don't understand is how many people, and this might be teeing Mike up to offer the rebuttal on behalf of the other people. I heard this morning as I was driving in on Evan's show. I'm going to call it Evan's show now.
Oh, what is it? What is it?
Well, because he appears on Toucher and Rich.
Oh, all right. He's got his own show.
Right?
times.
So on Evan's show, I'm listening to, I think it's Ryan Johnston filling in for Johnny Ballgame, John Wallach. And they're going back and forth. They're talking about the arms race. And if it's like, God forbid, if Brady comes out of retirement, plays for Miami, blah, 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 what are you going to do? And then, somebody suggested, well, do you take another look at Lamar Jackson? And Ryan Johnson's like, that's exactly what you shouldn't do. Like, you can't do stupid things like that. Again, I completely understand how hard it would be to acquire Lamar Jackson. I don't completely understand why it would be dismissed as completely out of hand for a guy who's won as much as Lamar Jackson is. Now, this
Here comes
again
Deuce,
will be Mike's.
He's got his notes.
Mike's rebuttal,
No.
and that's great. This is I think this is good for us to talk about, but I just don't understand why it would be stupid for the Patriots to think about acquiring an established high-level quarterback who's available.
Well, I'm going to let Rashad tee it up because he emailed in, and I think he says some of the same points you do, but I think he wrote it pretty well. As I type this, it still amazes me that no one would want a young former MVP QB who would bring you a generation of young new fans, someone who wasn't surrounded by good skill positions, and Greg Roman also didn't help. I say all that to say, if I'm the Patriots, I'm paying Lamar that money because it's going to be $70 million a year pretty soon. Trade the 2 firsts that wouldn't even mean anything compared to Lamar, and trade Mac for a top 60 pick. I'm hoping this doesn't get skipped over today. Well, it didn't. Rashad, we're going to use it. He's a huge fan of Lamar. And
Good. Go ahead. I'll let you go first.
I'm
because
going to listen as
All
I
right.
get another Pepsi because
All right,
I'm
I'm
going to enjoy this.
I'm going to get up
I'm
on the
muting
on the
myself
thing.
to
No,
let him go.
And look, I will say I think he is phenomenally talented. I just don't understand why he is the golden goose that if you don't love Lamar and want Lamar more than anything in the world, that you're an idiot. Let's point out the guy's never started 16 games in a season. He's 1-3 in the playoffs. He's lost to teams that went nowhere. I mean, it's, I'm all for awesome talent, and that's great. But if I'm investing in a quarterback, I want to feel like every year I'm going to be in it. I'm going to have a chance. Tom Brady, how many seasons did he play here? He got hurt 1 year. So if I'm going to invest in a guy, I'm just saying there's a little bit of trepidation on my part in terms of injury history, in terms of what do I have to do for my offense. And I look at his playoff performance, and apparently against these good defenses, it's not quite as great. Our completion percentage drops from 63 to 55. He's got 3 touchdowns, 5 interceptions in the playoffs. The 2 games he ran for over 130, 140 yards. Didn't matter. They were 1-1 in those games. He got sacked 19 times in those 4 games. Those are the 2017 Los Angeles Chargers, 2018 Chargers, the 2019 Titans, the 2020 Titans, and last year the Buffalo Bills. So look, I get it. He's amazing to watch him when he's on, and he's lit the Patriots up. And last year they had no answer for him. I get it. I'm just saying, is there any concern about this guy's ability to stay healthy when I'm going to give him $50 million a year? Am I going to get 17 games out of him plus playoffs every year for the next 10 years? Or am I going to just have to accept that, well, hey, we'll probably get a Super Bowl in here somewhere on that 1 or 2 years that he actually stays healthy and is ready to go in the playoffs? That's what I got to say.
I'll let you go first.
There's a whole lot of QB wins in there, by the way. I'm just saying.
45 and 16.
45 and 16, right?
45 and 16 is pretty good.
But we only focus on the 1 and 3.
Okay, so but besides the fact that he's one of the most dynamic players in the entire league, like I don't even go on that rant yet. Did you? I just pulled it up because I wanted to make sure I got this correctly, and I'm going to read it to you. So here was what the Denver Broncos traded for Russell Wilson, who is significantly older than Lamar Jackson. Okay, they traded Drew Lock, Noah Fant, Shelby Harris, 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and a 5th-round pick to the Seahawks for Russell Wilson and a 4th-round pick. And you can get
And gave him the bag.
and gave him the bag. Thank you. And gave him the bag. And you can get Lamar Jackson, who is younger and better than Russell Wilson, for far less than that package. And that's what I don't 2 first-round picks for Lamar Jackson is not that bad. I don't understand what the entire reaction is that 2 first-round picks for Lamar. Oh, we can't give up 2 for. Did you just hear what the Broncos gave up for Russell Wilson? And I won't even pull up the Deshaun Watson situation and how all that went down. The fact that it's too much for Lamar Jackson, 2 first-round picks, is a bargain for Lamar Jackson, an absolute bargain.
So I will say that I really liked the start of your rant.
Oh, thank you, Paul.
Because I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, obviously, when you agree with something, you really like it, right? So, yeah, we're we're egomaniacs, just like everybody else. Yeah. When you suggest, at the start, I don't understand why it's silly that you're not necessarily willing to go that far for Lamar Jackson. And I totally understand. I know exactly what Baltimore is weighing right now. Yeah. And they have him. They know how good he is. I would push back on some of you learned well from me because you use statistics to benefit your own argument by saying he's never started 16 games while completely ignoring the fact that he sat out the last game of the year.
His MVP season?
Twice.
Yeah.
Yes.
The year he won.
They had to rest him. He was banged up. They had to rest him.
While completely healthy.
The league MVP,
so
Lamar Jackson.
He's been injured
that year.
The last 2 years. Yes, he has been injured. And he missed about a third of the games each of the last 2 seasons. That, to me, is a major concern. And there's because of the way he plays. I don't think that he's going to be more apt to stay healthier, running the way he runs. You gloss over 45 and 16. I'm sorry. This is where I'm Team Evan. There's not a lot of quarterbacks in the league that win at that level. And also, and I know that not every team gets the opportunity because the quarterback doesn't leave, but there's a lot of starting quarterbacks that have left their lineups in recent years, and the teams haven't fallen apart. I think of Drew Brees toward the end in New Orleans. I think of Dak Prescott last year in Dallas. Baltimore can't win a game without this guy. 2 years ago, they literally lost every one of them. They were 7-4. When he got hurt, or 7-5 or something like that when he got hurt. Well, no, I think they were 8-3. And they lost out. They went 8-9. This year, at least, Huntley won a couple of games, got them in the playoffs, and had them competitive. But I think the difference is, in other words, it's not a great team. Yeah. He makes the team great. And his numbers are just insanity. And I know he's never approached the passing that he did in that MVP year, but I would if I was Miami, Carolina,
the Jets,
Las Vegas.
I have no idea why the Jets want Aaron Rodgers more than Lamar Jackson.
The Jets. I would be looking at my personnel, and I'd be trying to figure out how hard would it be for me to transition a little bit to something more conducive to what Lamar Jackson is comfortable in. And I would have no problem with it. In other words, I'm probably a no for the Patriots on Lamar Jackson, but not because of Lamar Jackson's talent. That would be a ringing yes. If I had an opportunity to get a top 60 pick for Mac Jones and replace him with Lamar Jackson,
You do it?
I you know what?
think I would.
I would do a lot of driving to and from the airport. I would drive Mac to the airport and be more than willing to pick Lamar up to bring him back.
I'm a Mac defender. I
know
defend
you
the
are.
wall on Mac, and I would drive him to the airport. Sorry, I love you, Mac, but this is Lamar Jackson we're talking about here. I understand that for some teams like the Patriots, if you go to the ball with Lamar Jackson and then the Ravens match the offer, now what does Mac Jones say to you, right? Now you're really stuck in a rock and a hard place, just like the Falcons were last year with Matt Ryan, for example.
And I think that's part of it with
Sometimes you get in trade rumors, and sometimes you don't.
Hello, Mac.
But that's part of why I really get mad. And like I like the way you said it at the beginning of your rants. Like what you're somehow chastised as being either collusion with the good old boy owners or worse. Collusion shrouded in racism. Yeah. Because they're not interested. Whereas Evan just completely mapped out another minority quarterback who was given the world to go and poop the bed in Denver last year. Like,
there's no
how
question.
quickly they forget. When Cleveland, and I read this thing from Charles Robinson, which was really interesting from different agents giving perspectives. When Cleveland decided to give Deshaun Watson $240 million in guaranteed money, everybody killed the Browns.
Yeah.
Killed them. Now everybody's killing Baltimore for not giving him $240 million to match it.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who's been injured a couple of times lately. Like, I just don't understand. I love Lamar Jackson. I think he's terrific. But if someone says, I don't think Lamar Jackson's that good, he's not that accomplished a passer, he's been injured the last 2 years, he's going to cost you 2 first-round picks and $250 million in guaranteed money. Those are all facts. Like, just because I think Lamar Jackson's great and you think he's great but aren't willing to do that doesn't make you a collusion guy or worse.
Yeah.
I just think that, first of all, it's good business for the Ravens to just franchise tag him and play the string out. It's bad business for them to just hand him $250 million just because they feel like they absolutely have to. They have the control in the situation with the franchise
make
tag.
him play. If he plays on the franchise tag this year, that's the best case for Baltimore.
And then they can, even franchising tagging him again next year is still a good deal for them, like going the Kirk Cousins route. But the one thing I'll push back with on the injuries, I think if he has the bag last year, he plays, especially in the playoffs. And I understand that, Mike, we were joking about this upstairs.
I think he'd have played in the playoffs.
Yeah,
for sure.
that Mike was like,
sounds like a team guy.
Yeah, I don't want on my team, right? But
That was my snarky thing.
I think last year, for better,
A lot of Patriots you don't want anymore then.
for better or worse, I think last year not playing down the stretch and in the playoffs was a business decision for Lamar Jackson.
I agree.
And I can't really fault him for it. He's somebody
I also agree with that.
That he has so much on the line. And I think that he looks at other guys. I always hate to go to the poster child of this, but RG3, right? Like, you just don't want to be the next RG3. And that's, I think, what's in the back of his mind last year, where if I play at 75% and then blow up my knee, and now I just...
It's over. You're going to be doing ESPN in the next 3 years.
So, and the other part of that, too, and like what Evan's talking about, it's so hard. Like, everybody... I think everybody just wants to make it so black and white. Well... And they're clearly these old owners. They're all colluding, and they're all they don't want him because he's black. Well, that's an easy, convenient way to look at it. And maybe I don't know these owners. Maybe some of them feel like that. I'm not telling you what's in someone's heart. Maybe they do. But if you're Miami, as an example, and you publicly come out and say, like to your point, you're going to sign him to an offer sheet, which is a hard process. There's like one guy in the history of the franchise tag who's been signed away, right? That's Sean Gilbert in 98. So if you do that and then Baltimore matches, then you turn around and you go, hey,
just kidding.
Tua, love you, mean it.
Right.
You're my guy.
Well, that's why I think...
That's what makes it hard for these teams to publicly declare their desire for Lamar Jackson. And I don't buy for a second there's no interest in Lamar Jackson, which is what came out about 5 minutes after the franchise tag was announced on Tuesday. Remember?
Yeah.
On Twitter, there was like
teams
five.
like the Patriots
Field
and the
Yates
Dolphins.
just like carrying buckets of water for the NFL. These 5 teams have already said they're not interested. I don't believe that for a second.
Yeah,
No.
but I was going to say, to your point, Evan, about, I mean, there's no question Lamar Jackson looks favorable on just about any light compared to what they gave Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson. But do you think that this is in some ways more connected to just the owners not wanting to make Deshaun Watson the new standard? And if Lamar Jackson now builds off of what Deshaun Watson got, they feel that there's no stopping this train now? Is that part of it too, because of that deal just went
It's just
so
so
off the
tough
rails?
with what the Giants just gave Daniel Jones, who's half the player that Lamar Jackson
That's the
is.
way I look at it. Is it's clearly that's the direction it's going. So maybe you can put your foot in, you put your foot down over this one,
Right.
but eventually it's happening anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the guaranteed money is one thing. I guess, I don't know if anybody will ever sign a fully guaranteed deal like that again. But if you're going to give Daniel Jones 3 for $160, and Lamar is, forget about it. He's worth almost double, probably. I think.
And that's what I would do. Is I would if you don't want to give him $250 million guaranteed, then see if they'll take a shorter term.
That's what I would do too. If I was a team like the Patriots and I wanted to get into this dance, and again, I'm wary of the Mac Jones thing too. Like, that's a big thing for me. Mac, I think Miami is a great example too. If you're a team like the Raiders who doesn't have a quarterback at all, then Lamar is a perfect opportunity for you.
Jets, Carolina.
Right. But these
Vegas.
teams that have somebody, like, I'm not saying Mac Jones is the guy, but to have somebody,
Exactly.
it's hard to do that. But if I was a team like the Patriots or any team really, I would offer him the fully guaranteed deal, but it would be for 3 years, right? I'd offer him 3 for $150 fully guaranteed.
And that's what one of the agents in the Charles Robinson piece today said. Three for $150, $50 million a year guaranteed.
Because then those 3 years you're going to get a damn good quarterback, and then you're not hitched to the wagon if his physical tools start to decline 4 or 5 years down the line. You're not married to him to the point where you can't get out of it at that point.
Can we talk about that Daniel Jones deal for a second? And we got some callers, and please, we got great emails. We'll get to those probably after we break for lunch. I got to get this Daniel Jones thing, and just because I think it relates a lot to where the Patriots are, and it's a guy that just you're not that impressed with, but like you feel like you're married to him. Like, what are Giants fans, Giants execs saying to themselves right now about Daniel Jones that we think he's going to take the next step and we're going to be able to compete with this Eagles team that we saw last year? Seems like all of a sudden they're just coming on and they're going to be, good for a while. Like, it's just such a hard spot to be in. And like, on one hand, I'd love to say, man, if you have just a middling quarterback that you're like kind of fooling yourself that you're believing that he's really going to be the guy and really lead you to like a Super Bowl and to be a top 5 team, but he's your guy, and yeah, he's probably better than tossing yourself back into the winds of free agency in the draft and trying to get a quarterback. Like, how do you reconcile all of that? It's just
hard.
It's like you wonder, and this year we'll say a lot about Mac and where he's at and if he's kind of on that similar trajectory. But like, I just having seen Daniel Jones twice here over the last few summers, like we saw him last year last year at practice. Like, you're never getting like a Super Bowl with this guy, and you just handed him all this money. Like, how do you live with yourself? I don't know. It's just such a complicated thing.
It's not. To me, it's what makes it really hard, because I think there are a lot of teams that probably have quarterbacks that they feel like people feel about Daniel Jones. Like, he's my starter. He's fine. I can win games with him. I can't win the Super Bowl with him.
I love that in a press conference.
I mean, I think they're probably banking on a couple of things. I think they're probably banking that year 2 of Dable and Jones might be even better.
Yeah, I can talk myself
which is
into
one
that a
thing.
little bit.
And the other thing is, when you're a team like the Giants, who's a good franchise, they've been down and finally had some success. Do you want to intentionally break it up? Or do you want to say,
because you felt
can we build to something a little bit bigger?
If we take a half step back, maybe.
But I got in an argument with my brother yesterday, because believe it or not, guys.
You and your brother?
Believe it or not, I don't just argue with you bozos. I argue with my brother on the way home.
I feel like we have a lot to blame on your brother for.
Oh, he did this. He totally. Rich is totally responsible for this. So he's like, I'd rather have Derek Carr. And I would have done that. And I was like, I like Derek Carr too. I like him. I don't love him. I don't think much differently of Derek Carr than Daniel Jones.
Dan's a younger Derek Carr.
I think he's probably a better passer, better pure passer of the football, as they like to say.
Less eyeliner.
But he's not as much of a threat to run as Daniel Jones. And I'm not sure he's as tough as Daniel Jones. I think Daniel Jones has showed some toughness in New York. It's a tough place to play. He's gotten the crap kicked out of him behind a terrible offensive line. If I got to give those, I mean, that's what my point, I guess, is they both cost like $40 million.
Yeah.
Like, you're not getting it. Like my Rich said to me, he goes, maybe like $25 million. I go, well, you want to be the Patriots then. You want to take these guys and get them for the deal that you want.
You have no choice.
But that's not an option.
No.
Like, yeah, I'd rather have Tom Brady at $25 million too. That's not on the table anymore. Those guys cost $50 now.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I just look at it from a Patriots perspective. I've been saying this since the Daniel Jones contract negotiations started. I just watch out for what Daniel Jones gets, and I get all of the, well, Mac doesn't run as well as Daniel. Yeah, that's fair. But if Mac Jones, if you take out.
So wait a minute. I have to interrupt you for a second.
Yeah.
I have to be rude.
Sure.
So you said watch out for what Daniel Jones gets. Like this, can I assume like 2 weeks ago or a week ago?
Longer. Yeah, I've been saying it for a while.
And Patriots fans came at you saying, but Daniel Jones can run?
Yes.
These are the same people, Mike, that told us that Mac Jones was already better than Daniel Jones 2 years ago in training camp.
But this is my point.
Yeah.
But this is my exact point. So if Mac Jones' rookie season and his third season end up being what Mac Jones is with a real offensive coordinator and a real setup on offense, and year two ends up being the outlier, when his contract comes up, you are looking at $45 million a year for Mac Jones.
At least.
Like, I'm sorry.
Without question.
That's what the market is.
It's just the natural progression. It's not going to go backwards.
Right.
Forget about the performance. If he is your starter and you want him to be your starter going forward after this year and you want to re-sign him and extend him, now I don't think they will.
Right.
But if you want to, Evan is right.
Right.
That's what it's going to cost.
Yeah. If Mac Jones in 2 out of his 3 seasons has respectable box score stats, gets you to the playoffs in 2 out of 3 years, let's say they have a big bounce back year this year, they win 11 games, they get to the divisional round, and things are looking up, then Mac Jones is going to garner the Daniel Jones contract. I think that's exactly
probably
more, but yeah.
That if I was his agent, that's exactly what I would say to the Patriots. I would say that's our floor. That's our floor for an extension. And I'm not saying the Patriots should do it.
And I would say because he would be buying a free agent year, so maybe he gets a little bit less, but not much.
And I'm not saying the Patriots should necessarily do that, but that's the market. Daniel Jones has set them because that's not the deal that Derek Carr signed last offseason with the Raiders. This is a legitimate 2.5-year contract that Daniel Jones signed. 2 years, $82 million in the first 2 seasons, and a little bit more in injury guarantee for the third season. So this is a legitimate 3-year deal that Daniel Jones signed, and that's going to be the going rate for a Daniel Jones level quarterback, and I think Mac Jones is right there with him.
It's funny, like what other industry do you have to pay a guy the highest salary on your payroll, and you really don't think he can really do what you really truly need him to do? You know, it's just
great
like
point.
One of these things where but you got no choice. You got to pay him $40 million. Now, is he going to get you Super Bowl? Probably not, but that's what it is. So tough.
Yeah, it's a good question of is there a school of thought, and this is like a deep off-season dive, but is there a school of thought of recycling quarterbacks at some point? Like if
Geno Smith, right? Like, is that going to give anybody, everybody wants to develop the next, it's the hot new thing, go get A.J. Brown. Like, is anybody going to try to sell the Geno Smith thing?
It is a deep dive, and I see the phones are starting to stack up, but I would be absolutely in fit because that I'm a little bit less on the Mac Jones train than most. That would be exactly what I would do. I would say, I know he's not the guy. I'm going to get rid of him and get probably another guy that I think I can get for less than I would have to re-sign him. All the while, every year, I'm taking a swing in the draft.
Yeah.
I'm going to draft Hendon Hooker. I'm going to draft DTR. I'm going to draft somebody every year and just have my fingers crossed that I can develop one.
Yeah, I don't think it's a terrible strategy if you feel like we keep saying that you have a guy that's middling, that's not going to get you the Super Bowl, but is not terrible, but you're not going to pay $45 million a year. Like if the Patriots in 2 years decide that somebody in the draft is just Mac Jones and we're just going to start it over on the clock in the rookie deal, and maybe he ends up having a little bit more upside out of nowhere or something, like I don't know.
Like if Mac is basically what he's been for 2 years. And he's not going to get any better than that, right? So if that happens, I mean, how many fewer wins would you have if Andy Dalton was the quarterback? and you can get Andy Dalton for a fraction of what it's going to cost
Yeah.
you to re-sign Mac
Yeah.
Jones.
Yeah, I
Right?
mean, I'm not, you know where I stand on this, but like, how much fewer wins would they have with Bailey Zappi?
Right. I didn't use Zappy on purpose because I knew how you felt about that. Zappy.
No,
I didn't want to trigger him.
the reason why I'm coming around to things like this is I just can't stomach at the moment giving Mac Jones $45 million a year.
So on my
I just
show,
can't.
Yeah.
on my show, Jim Murray is a
touching
big
him,
fan of just keep drafting.
Right.
And they make fun of him.
Yeah.
The two of them make fun. And Mike and Tony constantly make fun of him for it. I don't think he's wrong.
No.
No.
Like, and this is again, if you have confidence in Mac Jones, then that
Do it.
changes the whole thing. That means you're prepared to give him $40+ million, and you're okay with it because you think he's ascending. The coaches know a hell of a lot more about football than I ever will. So if they think he's ascending, that's the move that they make.
Yeah.
Fine. But if they don't, if they think like what Evan's talking about, why not pull back on that? Bring in just some random bridge guy who, Drew Lock, someone who hasn't really played at all.
And maybe it's Geno. Maybe it happens like Geno.
What's
Smith.
the difference between the amount of wins you're going to have?
Yeah.
Like Geno Smith, you're not going to go anywhere with Geno Smith. You're going to win 8 or 9 games. That's all you're going to win with Mac Jones.
Right.
So I can save a ton of money. Now you can't do that with Geno Smith anymore, but
Yeah.
just
Even
I don't-
Geno Smith got the bag.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a dumb
No.
way of looking at it.
You brought it home for me, Paul, because that's what it is. I'm like, and I, as a fan, I want to say, if I'm a Giants fan, like, don't sell me on this Daniel Jones contract unless you guys really believe that
Right.
he is the guy.
And
because
that's
if
what
you don't,
that
I'd rather
whole
just do
that
what
whole
you said.
Dable thing. I have a ton of respect, and it's personal.
Yeah.
Like I just love the guy. I mean, you guys just got back from the combine. I can't tell you how many years Brian Dable chewed my ear off sitting next to me on the plane back from the combine. Like I really like the guy.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm clouded by that. I will wholeheartedly
I like him too.
accept that. I think that he really was instrumental in doing what Josh Allen has come, turning out.
That's
to
why
be.
I'm just so shocked that he's hitching his wagon right now, at least to Daniel Jones, because I just look in this draft and I think that this will happen with every draft, like the Anthony Richardson types. It's like if Brian Dable can make Josh Allen into Josh Allen, how does he not look at a guy like Anthony Richardson and be like, oh, I'll turn him into Josh Allen, right? I just don't understand
Do you
that.
see, like, and I'm not telling you this is the same, so don't attack.
I might attack. No, I'm just kidding.
I think Daniel Jones has a lot of qualities that Josh Allen had. I think he's got good size. I think he has good mobility. I think he has a good arm, not Josh Allen's arm. I don't think there's a lot of guys
He's
in the
dollar
league.
store Josh Allen.
Maybe, but it wouldn't stun me if in 2 years we're looking at it as like, wow, Brian Dable turned Daniel Jones into a reasonably competent top third of the league quarterback. What is that? Top 12 quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wouldn't stun me. And I don't like Daniel Jones. I'm on. I
Right.
don't. What I've seen, I'm not impressed with. I thought last year all he does is run. He doesn't do it for me as a passer.
It's an interesting contrast, though, to look at what Josh did with the Raiders. And, I mean, not totally same situation, but still an offensive kind of guru who comes in, inherits a quarterback. Giants went and extended Daniel Jones. Josh is like, you're out. I'm gonna jump back into the mix. And who knows, maybe he goes for Anthony Richardson, who
That's going to be
certainly has
fascinating
some
to see what
skills.
they do.
It's gonna be crazy.
The Raiders.
Let's jump to the phones. Hey, Patty, I'm sorry for making you hold on for so long. We really got into it here about these contracts.
No, I love it, and it kind of goes to where I'm going to go, and I will eventually get to the quarterback point. But what I wanted to say is, if you look at like what happened in the 2018 at the top of the round in the 2018 and 2019 drafts, right now this team, our beloved Patriots, are feeling the ripple effects on missing on three guys that are arguably the three biggest needs right now. Sides at cornerback with Jawan Williams, left tackle with who I would argue is probably the biggest bust in Bill Belichick's drafting history, Isaiah Wynn, and N'Keal Harry. And just look at where this team is at right now. I mean, those are three big voids that you're not going to ostensibly fill in the draft in 1 year in the draft this year. You might be able to fill two with free agency in the draft, but man, I hope beyond hope that this year, because I'll call last year a wash. I still don't know what Mac Jones is, And I know that, half the fan base probably isn't a big believer in him, but the things I wanted to see him accomplish last year, I really want to see. I want to see him, win games, put the team on his back in a few games and come from behind and steal a game or two that they're not supposed to win and just show that, hey, maybe this guy's going to be really good and maybe he has room to grow, because I really don't want to go back into the quarterback carousel, because we've seen it. I mean, you could get the biggest highly touted rookie. You're not winning a Super Bowl with a rookie quarterback. So you're really putting your team behind 3 or 4 years if you have to go back into that quarterback carousel. And that's all I got. Great conversation, guys. As always, Patriots Unfiltered is the best. And Catch 22 is number 2. See you later.
Thanks, Patty.
Thanks, Patty. Appreciate it.
Isaiah win biggest draft bust though, Patty. I think that's a little strong.
Especially when he says N'Keal Harry in the next name.
Yeah.
The whole I think it'd be awfully difficult for a rookie quarterback to win, but I don't know why we have to go from that to it's 3 or 4 years. Why can't he be great by year 2?
Yeah, Joe Burrow, right?
Patrick Mahomes,
Right.
Joe Burrow, Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, there's guys
Jalen
that
Hurts is year 3.
I mean,
at the moment.
There are guys that have a lot of success young.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be year 4 or year 5.
Yeah, but I it's impossible to disagree with the main point, though. If those high round draft picks in that area, you are reaping what you sowed right now, and those are he's right.
That's his larger
right.
point, and he nails it. We've talked about it many times. And I think the whole thing with the quarterbacks is, if you're asking me what would I rather do, would I rather have to draft somebody every year? No. I'd rather have Mac Jones make an enormous leap this year, show everybody that I personally am completely wrong, and he's a guy that can throw 42 touchdowns in 8 picks and be the reason that your offense is dominant.
Yeah.
If that's the preferred road, you don't want to have to do the Evan and Paul thing where you're signing some retread quarterback to just
wait till Barth gets here. He's all in on this idea too. But Jawan Williams is an interesting one because this entire draft process I've been don't draft the next Jawan. Try to avoid that, right? At all costs. Let's try to avoid that. And I think the biggest thing that I can point to with Jawan Williams, and it showed up on film, but it's just the easiest tangible way, is the 40 time, right? We ran in the low 4.6s, which is too slow to play corner in the NFL.
That was a classic Paul-Andy disagreement on the draft, and I won.
Yeah, too slow to play corner. So a guy like Julius Brents, who I think everybody really likes for the Patriots from K-State, ran in the low 4.5s. So yeah, it's only a tenth of a second, but that tenth of a second matters. That's the difference between being there at the catch point and not being there at the catch point. So I think that's a big thing. If you're looking at these bigger corners, don't draft a 4.6 corner, right? They draft the guys that can run.
Try not to draft slow corners.
That's a little tip.
We're
gonna grab Matthew in Nebraska here before we take a quick break for lunch. Hello, Matthew. What's going on?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Great.
I'm going to take a shift away from what you guys have been talking about.
Cool.
Just going to get your thoughts on a... Hello?
Yeah, we're here.
You're on the air.
I just want to get your thoughts on a wide receiver coming out of Nebraska, Trey Palmer.
Oh, I like him.
He's a guy that I've kind of watched a little bit as he's played here, and he did pretty well last season, and kind of sad to see him go, but he's kind of, I don't know if you kind of equate him to Tyquan Thornton. He's fast.
Yeah.
So I just don't know if you have done much research to see if he has...
I did. He was in my first mock. I grabbed him. As a late round kind of. Thanks, Matthew. Appreciate it. Speed, a little bit bigger. More of a slot guy out of speed out of the slot.
Yeah, a little bit of concern. I think with his Senior Bowl week, he didn't wow me with separation and one-on-ones, and that's the type of, if you're going to be a good receiver, you'd like to hope to think that in a one-on-one drill in practice that you can get open a little bit. He got open on the vertical plane, but I didn't see a ton of horizontal separation. I just think that I like him as a player, as a mid-round guy that you just take a flyer on in the 4th or 5th round. No problem with that whatsoever, but I do think that you would like to aim a little bit higher if you're the Patriots. Then if they go out and they trade for DeAndre Hopkins and they draft Trey Palmer in the end of the 4th round, I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to say that was a bad
Don't take him pick in the 3rd and tell us he's going to be the
guy.
Slot guy.
Yeah, right.
What do you think, Paul? You want to? You
can take the call.
Let's clear the board here. Let's clear the board. We got Mark out in Bolton. Hey, Mark.
Oh, hey guys. As Paul knows, I've been in on Tremaine Edmonds as my number one free agency signing, so I'm with Evan on that one. I'm also making the case for Jawan Taylor at right tackle because of his pass blocking. His run blocking is definitely lacking. So my question for Evan is, with Clem's emphasis on violence in his teaching philosophy, can he improve Taylor in the run game, or is it more the run game more about want to than technique?
I definitely think it's more about want to
Thanks, Mark.
in some respects. I mean, run blocking is a mentality. Like running the football in general is a mentality. It's one of the only like old football tropes that I still think is true is that running the football is a mentality. Jawan Taylor, he nailed it though. A really high level pass protector, not a people mover in the run game. I think he could get there with some technical stuff. When you look at run game, it's always hand placement and pad level. Like if you're not the lowest guy at the point of attack, then you're not going to move people off the line of scrimmage. I think that's probably his biggest problem. But I look at their types, right, at left and right tackle. Typically the pass blockers, they like to play at left tackle, and the guys that are the bulldozers play on the right side. So if they stick to that mold, then I don't know if Taylor is necessarily their right tackle that they would like, but he's got 35-inch arms. He's got the build in the feet to play on the left side. I don't love signing a guy to a big contract and then flipping him immediately. But if you feel like maybe he's a better bet for you in your scheme at left tackle, I like the player. So I would be fine with them bringing him in. I would be interested to see how they change things up if they don't want him to. If they want to play him at right tackle and he's not the bulldozer type, how do they change it up, or if they switch him?
All right, let's grab one more here before we take a break for lunch. Mike from Puerto Rico. Hey, Mike.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good.
A friend not around?
No, not today. Sorry, you got to talk to Deuce.
Okay. So who sorry, you, I hear Evan is Paul.
Yeah, we got Mike, Evan, and Paul.
Yeah, I'm here.
The boys.
Okay. I have to do some, this is off topic, off-season topic.
Nice.
But I have to conduct some interviews next week for an employee hire. And I heard some of the conversation last week from the podcast about Fred's success with hiring and people that have been able to move on.
Yeah,
and
he's not
beyond.
here.
And no, but I wanted to ask y'all what was the interview question that you felt was the most effective during your process when you were interviewed. So I'm guessing, I believe, Paul, you were interviewed by Fred?
I was.
And then for Deuce and Evan, who interviewed you guys?
Yeah, I was with Fred and Matt, and then I guess Evan was with the three of us. It was like me.
Yeah,
and,
well,
me
you
and
at
Paul
first, and then the in person was with all three of you.
Yeah, I blame Mike for you. It's all Mike's fault.
Right.
So I don't. What do you think? Which question out of that interview process, which you interviewed for, you found the most effective?
I don't remember. I don't know.
I wish I had something for you, Mike. It was 24 years ago. All I remember is the stain on Fred's shirt. He had like a T-shirt on with a stain on it.
I'll bring one up. Just and I don't know if this was the best one, but it was just one I remember. It was Fred said, "How are you with hearing the word no?" And by that point, I had worked in Hollywood for 13 years, and I said, I'm waiting to hear a yes. All I hear is no. So I have no problem hearing no, but that was, just one for me. And that's, something I think that anybody where you're trying to pitch ideas and creative and get things going that, not everything's going to jive
I think
for everybody.
my interview was similar to when we spoke with Evan, just coming from sort of the mainstream media to the team media. That's a lot of my questions were based on that. And I know in being part of Evan's process, we talked a lot about that.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say, was just how do we take what I was already doing at my past job and package it to be doing it here. Yeah. I think because you and I had already known each other so well that it wasn't so much of a getting to know you game. It was more about
we already knew you.
This is what you're good at. How do we make that work as an in-house media reporter now instead of somebody on
That's
the
why
outside?
we had Mike come in to do a radio show. When we hired Mike,
grilling me.
He was sitting right there. I was asking him about his sophomore year.
Hot corner. That was cool. I mean, it was with the great Paul Perillo and Fred Kirsch and Eric Scalavino and Megan O'Brien. I couldn't believe it. Thanks, Mike, for the question.
A whole world
Appreciate
evolution
it.
Change.
But yeah, we're still trying. Evan still, he had a taste of the real journalism, and it's still inside of him of like,
it is.
And that's why I felt like he and I talked a lot at his, because I remember back, and one of the first things I asked Fred was, let's just say for argument's sake, I find out that Pete Carroll's getting fired. How what do we do and how do we proceed with that? And that was basically, I was still
Shut
sort
your
of
mouth and wait for someone to report it.
Delusions of grandeur of, like
Paul Perillo, an
being the
exclusive.
only one that would know something like that. But,
Right.
I was sort of naive still, coming from the Herald. I just wanted to know, can I still be a reporter, basically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the answer was no.
Yeah, we were just talking about this because usually I have a source that gets me the picks early for the draft. So sometimes I have tipped picks in the past on Twitter. So it's kind of the same thing of, am I still allowed to do that?
So Jeff Howe, just keep them to yourself.
Yeah.
Well, we're at least wondering because we
obviously
we
get 'em on.
see them
Yeah.
too, but
Yeah.
now it's like, all right, who's going to get it first? Because those are the worst moments on the draft show is when like, bing, Cole Strange, and you're like, oh, and you know it's about to happen, and
Yeah.
you
See Paul scrambling
and
through his
nobody
notes.
knows. I know. What page? I keep driving to try. All right, that's going to do it for us for a moment. We're going to just grab some lunch here real quick, and we'll be back shortly. Read a bunch of emails that are coming in.
Verizon, the network America relies on, and the official 5G network of the New England Patriots.
Patriot Place is the region's #1 shopping, dining, and entertainment destination. Shop your favorites, including Vineyard Vines, Express, Bass Pro Shops, Petco, and more. Enjoy dining at one of our 19 restaurants, including Six String Grill and Stage, Scorpion Bar, and Bar Louie. And don't forget about the entertainment. Explore your inner artist at Muse Paint Bar. Watch a movie at Showcase Cinema Deluxe, or grab a controller and start gaming at Helix Esports. For a complete directory listing, please visit patriot-place.com.
How did Verizon build the fastest 5G in the world? We started by building it right with 5G Ultra Wideband. Then we gave it massive capacity and near zero lag. And it's not just fast, it's 25 times faster than today's 4G networks. This is 5G built right from the network more people rely on, only on Verizon. 5G Ultra Wideband available only in parts of select cities. Global claim based on open signal independent analysis. 25 times analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence data Q2 2020.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes,
Oh no!
replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
In sports, if you think joy only happens after you win, think again. Look at the world's most successful athletes like Serena Williams, Brooks Koepka, and Alex Morgan. They don't spend all their days grinding away. They take time to enjoy themselves, like getting together with friends over a Michelob Ultra, because they know that happiness is the key to winning, and that joy is the whole game, not just the end game. Michelob Ultra. 95 calories, 2.6 grams of carbs. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. AB Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Some people are never content with simply being good. Not when they can be great. But it takes a big step to get there. In fact, it takes a leap of faith, a belief in what you're striving toward, and a willingness to make the commitment, day in and day out, to something bigger than yourself. Putnam is proud to partner with those who share their own commitment to performance excellence. This is Matt Light for Putnam Investments, a world of investing.
There's no season better than football season, and there's no better place to get in on all of the action than with DraftKings, the official daily fantasy sports partner of the New England Patriots. To add to the thrill, DraftKings has millions of dollars in prizes up for grabs every week, so head to the app now and check it out. If you haven't tried it yet, fantasy football is easy to play. Just pick 9 players, stay under the salary cap, and pile up points for yards, touchdowns, receptions, and so much more. There's no better way to put your football knowledge to the test than to compete for a shot at $1 million in total prizes. Download the DraftKings app now and use promo code PATS to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes every week. That's promo code PATS to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes every week, only at DraftKings. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Patriots fans, you'll want to check out the replay on this one. Pat the Patriot is stealing the show tonight with his Bank of America mobile banking app.
That's right, folks. So here we see Pat cheering, and then whammo! Is that Bank of America life plan?
Looks like he's saving up for some big future moves. Planning the next vacay, huh, big guy?
And wait, now he's paying back his buddy for concessions using Zelle? No penalty there. Incredible.
No way! As if that double move wasn't impressive enough, now he's beefing up his account defense with security meter? Holy cannoli, what a performance!
Bank of America's digital tools are so impressive, Patriot fans just can't stop banking. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/banking. You must be enrolled in online banking or download the latest version of the mobile banking app, only available on select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. Terms and conditions apply. Member FDIC.
Want to get into the game? Get coached up at Dean College. Equipped with exclusive academic partnerships featuring the Patriots, Revolution, Providence Bruins, summer baseball, and more, our classrooms are set up for success by learning directly from the pros. Dean College has programs in communications, sports management, business, and marketing with unprecedented hands-on experiences. Our students take what they learn in the classroom and put it right to work in the marketplace. At Dean College, our students don't just play games, we run them. Visit us at dean.edu.
Verizon, the network America relies on, and the official 5G network of the New England Patriots.
Patriot Place is the region's #1 shopping, dining, and entertainment destination. Shop your favorites, including Vineyard Vines, Express, Bass Pro Shops, Petco, and more. Enjoy dining at one of our 19 restaurants, including Six String Grill and Stage, Scorpion Bar, and Bar Louie. And don't forget about the entertainment. Explore your inner artist at Muse Paint Bar. Watch a movie at Showcase Cinema Deluxe, or grab a controller and start gaming at Helix Esports. For a complete directory listing, please visit patriot-place.com.
How did Verizon build the fastest 5G in the world? We started by building it right with 5G ultra wideband. Then we gave it massive capacity and near zero lag. And it's not just fast, it's 25 times faster than today's 4G networks. This is 5G built right from the network more people rely on, only on Verizon. 5G ultra wideband available only in parts of select cities. Global claim based on open signal independent analysis. 25 times analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence data Q2 2020.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes,
Oh no.
replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
In sports, if you think joy only happens after you win, think again. Look at the world's most successful athletes like Serena Williams, Brooks Koepka, and Alex Morgan. They don't spend all their days grinding away. They take time to enjoy themselves, like getting together with friends over a Michelob Ultra, because they know that happiness is the key to winning, and that joy is the whole game, not just the end game. Michelob Ultra. 95 calories, 2.6 grams of carbs. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. AB Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Some people are never content with simply being good. Not when they can be great. But it takes a big step to get there. In fact, it takes a leap of faith, a belief in what you're striving toward, and a willingness to make the commitment day in and day out to something bigger than yourself. Putnam is proud to partner with those who share their own commitment to performance excellence. This is Matt Light for Putnam Investments, a world of investing.
There's no season better than football season. And there's no better place to get in on all of the action than with DraftKings, the official daily fantasy sports partner of the New England Patriots. To add to the thrill, DraftKings has millions of dollars in prizes up for grabs every week. So head to the app now and check it out. If you haven't tried it yet, fantasy football is easy to play. Just pick 9 players, stay under the salary cap, and pile up points for yards, touchdowns, receptions, and so much more. There's no better way to put your football knowledge to the test than to compete for a shot at $1 million in total prizes. Download the DraftKings app now and use promo code PATS to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes every week. That's promo code PATS to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes every week, only at DraftKings. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Patriots fans, you'll want to check out the replay on this one. Pat the Patriot is stealing the show tonight with his Bank of America mobile banking app.
That's right, folks. So here we see Pat cheering, and then whammo! Is that Bank of America life plan?
Looks like he's saving up for some big future moves. Planning the next vacay, huh, big guy?
And wait, now he's paying back his buddy for concessions using Zelle? No penalty there. Incredible.
No way! As if that double move wasn't impressive enough, now he's beefing up his account defense with security meter? Holy cannoli, what a performance!
Bank of America's digital tools are so impressive, Patriot fans just can't stop banking. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/banking. You must be enrolled in online banking or download the latest version of the mobile banking app, only available on select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. Terms and conditions apply. Member FDIC.
And now, great moments in history.
Sometimes, like, that was a regular argument.
Yeah.
That was fine.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there are times that we get, like, sort of upset. We start yelling.
Well, it's crazy.
And it's not really, I don't think it's the best moments of the show.
If you're yelling over each other, as a listener, you literally can't hear what people are saying.
I mean, there are times, I know this is going to surprise some people, but when I have an argument with you, that I'm embarrassed about it afterwards.
Well, you should
And
be.
I don't necessarily...
Some of your stances.
I don't necessarily... Actually, I'm surprised. I can't believe I'm losing to this guy.
That's another great moment from
All right, we're back here on Patriots Unfiltered, and wow, that was a quick first, 70 minutes on just free agency, quarterbacks. I mean, it's just such topical stuff, and how to compete and win in the NFL long term. I mean, there's no set way to do it, but man,
In
it's
a
just
lot
some
of ways,
tough
that's
decisions.
why the offseason shows, I think, are better.
Yeah,
I love the offseason.
you never, except when you don't talk about football.
Oh, yeah, I mean...
You like talking about
it's
football in the offseason.
So I
Is
was
there a
doing,
time where we don't talk about football?
Well, yeah, when Fred's here. I was talking about the shows in the offseason yesterday in my area down in KSP.
In the basement?
And I was, yeah. And
The basement in the Alamo?
We like to call it the bowels of the organization. And I was doing my Evan when we were talking about, like, soap with a slot. And like,
zoned out.
I might just come on for an hour for those shows.
Just let me know when this one passes. Yeah, whenever the soap on the slot comes up, you can just check out. And I also, so you guys got Catch 22 come up. So stay tuned. And I told Matt when Barth gets here, we should just have him in because I want to pick his brain a little bit. I want to see where Barth's at with.
He would love to have our
quarterback
recycle quarterback conversation. That's
if
right
he
up
comes
his
in,
alley.
I'd like to get.
And
I think
Spee will call in and yell at us about how wrong we are. It'd be great.
Which we could be.
Yeah.
Which we could be. It won't be the first for me, that's for sure. But do you think there's a chance? Or what do you think the chances are? Obviously, there is a chance. What do you think the chances are that we're looking at an entirely new, speaking of Catch 22, entirely new set of specialists next year?
That's definitely a Barth question. We gotta tee him up on that one.
So, hi, the 617 has a question. What are the chances, Alex, that we have an entirely new set of specialists
We'll
next
team
year?
up because
Can I get that in?
I don't think any
how
of us
long
wanna
do you
touch-
have?
I know. I don't think any of us
I'm not
wanna
really
touch
interested in the
specialists now. Thanks. I'll hang up and listen. You go out and get it.
I have heard. I have seen, I should say, a couple of mocks that have not just a kicker but a punter as well. And I mean, there is a chance that Cardona doesn't come back. I think he probably will, but
wouldn't that be crazy though if they just signed that
crazy?
Tucker Addington guy and
Isn't
they're
that
like, well, I thought we
crazy?
had something going here, bro. I'm from Navy.
And then
like,
what- and then
come
what
on.
happens to
It
your
seemed like
team?
forever, and
then
the other guy
your
snaps
team
the ball
is
the same.
exactly the same as it was.
Yeah.
How dare you, Paul? How dare you?
The punter kicker thing is legit. I'm actually not being facetious. Like that's
Is
a
mock
day
draft-
3 legit need. In mock draft 1.0, I had Jake Moody, the kicker from Michigan, who
Now
pulled
you
up
have the other
Shine
guy
Bowl.
that everybody's on?
No. So now in mock draft 2.0, I put my top punter in 2.0. So I went kicker in the first one, punter in the second one. That's a pro tease. I'm not going to tell you who it is.
Yeah.
You have to tune in to
gotta watch the video.
Catch 22.
You'll have to check it out on the Bobby.
Yeah.
So I should say too, I think we'll give away a T-shirt today, and there have been people preemptively writing in
Shall we?
answers and such.
They're just giving answers to questions we haven't posed yet?
Yeah,
That's
well,
awesome.
This is great from Chutters, fan of the show. He just answered Gino's piece. Just taking a gamble on what today's
good.
question might be to get my answer in ahead of time.
That's good.
So I don't know, Chutters.
Gino's piece.
You're a pretty big fan. I don't know. We might have to put you on the list anyway to send a T-shirt. But why don't we do that in a few minutes? Why don't we say like 1:30? About 5 minutes. We'll get some calls and some emails done. Get on top of those, and then we'll give away a T-shirt with some kind of PU trivia.
Host Mike is like a little frazzled here. We're gonna look at this email and
we're gonna go inside. We're gonna go outside. All right, let's go up to Canada. Hey, it's Sean. Hey, Sean, how you doing?
Hey, guys, how's it going?
What's up, Sean?
You know, I was never huge into college. But in 2015, I happened to watch Louisville, and I fell in love with Jackson. I couldn't wait for him to come to the NFL. And then when he was on the board in the first round, instead of Wynn, I wanted him. And then he was again on the board instead of Michelle, I wanted him. And I think he's great. I love him. But I don't think he's right for the Patriots. I mean, at this point, you're not a team that's a playoff team. And it would be a waste to go after him. You're going to have to pay him a lot. You won't have money for other needs, and you have a lot of needs. So the best thing to do at this point is to try and put your investments to protect Mac and give him some weapons, and let's see if he's for real. Because, as Patty said, we don't know. We have to find out. That's our number one goal. All right, that's all I got.
That it is. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it.
I mean, I think that the last part of what he said is probably the sound way to go about it. But don't you think they'd be a playoff team with Lamar Jackson?
Yeah. I mean, they were one win away from a playoff team last year.
Exactly.
And
he said.
I also just, me and Paul are in lockstep on the cap thing. Like, don't give me that they wouldn't have money to go out and upgrade the rest of the roster.
They would have. See, here's where I do separate them, because I do recognize they would absolutely have cap space to do whatever they wanted. Which you're seeing. Oh, by the way, I haven't seen as many snarky people asking me about cap when I'm reading about so-and-so restructured his, saving them $18 million on the cap. So-and-so restructured. That's why it's a fake cap. That's why the cap is crap. Because there are countless ways to get Felger's napkin out and do the salary cap to get in compliance. When you don't want the player, which evidently the Jets don't care about Braxton Berrios.
Right.
You try to get him to restructure. He says no, and you say, see you, bye.
Right.
And you save $5 million on that.
Yeah.
Right there.
Like,
just like that.
But the money to me is, if they had to give him, say, a cash outlay, and some of this is interesting too about the whole guarantee thing, and I forget what the actual percentage is, but when you guarantee a contract, the owner has to put that money in escrow for like the cash, and for Deshaun Watson, something like $180 million that needs to be
just go sit in escrow
in like NFL coffers. Like by September. I had this explained to me, but as usual, there was math involved, so I was
checked out.
I was swimming upstream and had no idea what I was listening to. But I had this explained to me by people in finance, and they talked about some of those things and what they mean. And I think that might be a deterrent. As much as the actual cash outlay, not everybody just has like $180 million to say, oh, here you go. It's like me. I can pay. I can't pay $350,000 for my house, but I can pay a couple of $1,000s per month every month for 30 years to get it.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? And a lot of owners are like that, with a lot of zeros added onto the end. They have the money to pay for their franchise, obviously, but not necessarily to just say, here you go. Here's the whole.
Yeah,
lump sum.
that's a totally fair point, and I should preface it by saying I don't think that the Patriots are going to pay Lamar Jackson and then go out there and spend $100 million in free agency on top of it.
That's my point.
Right? Like, I don't think that. But in terms of filling holes, if you get a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, you hope that he fills some of those holes for you, right? Like, all of a sudden, your offensive line being maybe really good at run blocking but not so good at pass blocking isn't as big of a deal because you got Lamar Jackson running around back there now instead of a sitting duck. No offense. And so I think that you look at those types of things.
Love you, mean it.
And you hope, just like Brady did here for years, that, okay, maybe our roster isn't as good over here, but we have the MVP of the league playing quarterback. So it doesn't make up as much of a big deal, as it does now.
All right, let's rattle through a few emails because they've been coming in. Appreciate everybody
this
writing in.
This isn't the time that I can start making fun of Fred. It looks like he has important people with him, so we won't do it.
No, well, we know the show's doing a lot better today without Fred dragging us down. Quick one here from Alex from Connecticut. Evan, this is a simple one for us here. Well, I mean, all of us. I don't know why I just said Evan. It's not an X's and O thing.
It's not about football, so
my question.
He can put his big brain away.
It's not about soap on his friend. This is actually soap on a slot. It's happening. And this is where I came up with it, right here in the studio. Simple question, though, and I think it's a good one. Not just, would you rather the Patriots trade for a stud receiver and draft a tackle, or sign a solidified starting tackle and draft a receiver? He says at 14, someone like JSN, but, just generally, do you have a feel for that? Like, do you have a preference? Because I kind of feel like, there's pluses and cons for both. Certainly with a young rookie receiver on a contract that you got him for 4 years at that price, you're going to have to pay a lot more to get that, proven veteran receiver. But
is money equal?
If money's equal,
I'd rather have the free agent receiver then, but that's easy to say without knowing exactly who it is.
Yeah, I think that's always what makes these hypotheticals tough for me. It's who is it that we're talking about? But I don't know. I go back and forth on the tackles because I do look at the free agent crop of tackles, and there's some really intriguing names there on this list. Orlando Brown, now not franchise tagged, McGlinchey, Caleb McGarry, Jawan Taylor. I think these are all guys that are upgrades, plug and play. Let's go, at one of those two tackle spots. And I think that if you do that, then maybe in the draft you do free up that 14th overall pick to go wide receiver, to go best player available, and not get caught in having to take a tackle. I think some of the issues that they've had over the last couple of years in the draft, it's been better. But last year I think is the perfect example. They were caught in having to take a guard, and or at least they felt that way. I don't think they were, but that's how they felt. So that's how you end up getting Cole Strange, is because they needed a guard, and he was the best guard available.
I would just answer it by saying that if you're asking me, would I rather pay $20 million a year for a tackle, which is going to cost you to get one of these, maybe 15 for a guy like McGlinchey,
right?
But or $20 million for a wide receiver, I'll take the wide receiver. But I need, it can't just be like, I don't want to pay Brandon Cooks $20 million, but I'll pay T. Higgins $20 million. You know what I mean? It needs to be a receiver of, some level.
I do love JSN. I do love him. I mean,
I'm with you.
A lot of people saying he's not going to be around at 14 now.
I don't know about that.
Nope. I don't know. I don't see the burst to pull away, but he's quick.
I'm to the point now where my draft analysis is nowhere. Obviously, it's nowhere near what you guys just came back from. But I now have definitively, from the people that I've been reading, somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 guys that won't be available when the Patriots.
There's so many top 10 guys. There's like 50 top 10
guys. But JSN, I think he's as close as to what I would want. Like if he ran at the combine and checked that box too in the 40, then I would be all in on it. But I just can't wrap my head around, and this is sort of what we were talking about on the mock draft show. I can't wrap my head around Bill Belichick taking a receiver with the 14th overall pick. Bill just feels like we build inside out, trenches, like that's where we start, and the receiver is like the cherry on top. That's
especially him, which is not even like that receiver,
right?
It's going to be a specific slot kind of guy.
If they were picking in the top 5 and this was a year where Jamar Chase was in the draft or someone like that, then it'd be one thing. But for a guy that's really just coming in to be a hyper, role player, and guy that's going to be a stud in the role that you're asking him to play in, I just see Bill wanting to build through the trenches, and I just don't know. I think the 14th overall pick would be too rich for him. For a receiver.
Got one from Claire. Not surprising. Hello, Claire. Hello, Maureen. But of course, tight ends, and she's right. With the tight end class being so good this year, do you predict that the Pats will draft the tight end at all? If so, how high? Do you think that with the wide receiver class being a little shallow, would that weapon be better picked as a tight end? I like where she's going, and I hope so. We both addressed tight end in our latest mock drafts. You a little bit higher than me, but there's a lot of guys in there that intrigue, and like Claire said, I wouldn't have a problem with just maybe a move guy. Like, all right, he's not going to be Gronk or he's not going to be a blocking guy, but he's going to be a weapon for us. And Dalton Kincaid probably gone, but there are a couple guys like that.
I think the great part about this tight end class, if you see a mock draft that has Michael Mayer to the Patriots at 14, just don't pay attention to that mock draft.
Whoa.
Okay? Because there's no reason whatsoever for the Patriots to take Michael Mayer at 14 in this tight end class.
Yeah.
It just makes no sense whatsoever. Now, if they had an immediate need at tight end, then maybe I could see it a little bit more. But you mentioned some guys in that like third or fourth round area, like a Laporta or a Schoonmaker or Zach Kuntz from Old Dominion.
Do you have to say it like that?
You have to say Kuntz.
Is it Kuntz?
Is a Kuntz. Those guys are developmental, great athletes. I think in other drafts, maybe they're tight end 1 or 2 in their drafts, but in this draft, they get pushed all the way down the board to like tight end 5 or 6 on day 2. Those guys all have starter upside. Now, I say starter upside. The tight end bar for starter is pretty dang low. Like, to be one of the best 32 tight ends in the league, it's not really the highest of bars. I don't know if they're top tier tight ends, but I think all those guys could hold down the position of being your starting tight end in, let's say, 2 years when Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith are not here.
I think they will take a tight end. I don't know, probably in the middle round somewhere. I think they take a lot of tight ends. That's a position they tend to look at. But I don't like the idea of, like I know Kansas City did it and just won a title. I don't like that idea. I think you have to have a really special guy like Gronk or Kelsey to do that. To have the tight end be your primary weapon.
Yeah, that's sort of why I'm more of a mid-round option. I think might be better just because I don't know if Mayer's not Gronk. Okay, I know he wears 87. I know he's a big guy. He plays tight end. He's not Gronk. And if he's not going to be...
Tremaine will like that, though. The Notre Dame guy.
Notre Dame guy.
If he's not going to be that type of guy, then I think there's so many mid-round options in this draft. Tucker Kraft, Schoonmaker,
I like Tucker Kraft.
Kuntz, Laporta.
He's the South Dakota State guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was
of options.
SFG. He was a serious football dude. Like, you ask him a question, he's staring right at you. He, of course,
what did you just say?
I said this on Andy's. I have like a thing that a serious football guy. Like, it's like kind of a thing. I'm like, this guy he's very serious about football. Like, it's like Dante Hightower, Kyle Duggar, like guys who aren't real jokey. You ask them about football and they're like football guys, serious football guys.
This tight end class
has more hang-ups that I haven't known about for 4 years.
That's not a hang-up. That's a bonus. All right.
Special teams guy just walked through the door, Paul.
Absolutely.
Before we do that, though, we're going to give away a T-shirt. Now, what are the rules? People have to email in, correct?
You have to email in the correct answer. And
Matt Morrell
dropped the ball. You waited till there's 25 minutes left in the show. Let's go.
He's trying his best, Paul.
Yeah, I'm doing my best here. I got all kinds of pressure.
My best wasn't good.
All right, I'm going to go on. This is loosely related to today. If you've been listening the whole time, the answer was said at one point. But here it is. Which member of the media smelled so good that Megan O'Brien wanted to bottle it like perfume?
Oh.
Remember that one, Paul?
I do.
This was a classic day.
I do.
So go ahead, email Matt Morrell. What is it? webradio@patriots.com. Send it on in.
If you want to get a jump on punter, kicker, long snapper talk, now's the time to do it.
Sitting down
so,
now.
Yeah, we're welcoming in here. I think it's his first Patriots
Unfiltered 98.5's Alex Barth.
He's got my station on.
Alex Barth. I have to say, Alex, it was a travesty that you were not at the scouting combine. I feel like if Evan and I were there, you eat it up as much as we do. You should have been there, but I'm sure you were back here just getting all kinds of information. I'm sure Evan was feeding you some as well. Just first off, because we really want to ask you about special teams, what'd you take away from the combine? Takeaways?
I think that a lot of, sometimes you go into the combine and things change a lot. Like I remember last year, the linebacker position, we were all super down on it, and then everybody tested through the roof. And all of a sudden it was, whoa, look at this class. I think this year it was really just confirming a lot of what we already believed. The strong positions, corner, tight end, offensive line, some of the positions we don't believe are as strong, linebacker, wide receiver. It really felt like a lot of just, okay, the eye test this year, watching these guys during the season, turned out to be pretty much spot on. A lot of these guys are sort of what we expected.
I'm going to let Paul. Paul's got a question, though about special teams.
Okay. I made him hold on.
I thought that was going to be. I thought that was a catch-22.
No.
You don't want to.
So I just threw it out there. Obviously, there's a chance, but do you think the Patriots will turn over all 3 spots of specialists?
Ooh. That's a good, that's a good question.
Thank you for the question.
Okay, I'm going to go back to my office now.
Kicker, I think there's a good chance.
Yeah.
Punter, it depends. If with the Jake Bailey's appealing that suspension, right? So we haven't gotten any update on that. It would be tough to move on from him if he wins that appeal and that money goes back on the books. So TBD on that one. But like if he loses that and there's no guaranteed money, I could see it. And they Tucker Addington was the long snapper they signed late in the year last year, right? They signed him to a multi-year deal. So does that count as turning over if it's him?
Oh, yeah.
Even though he's like here
no,
late last year?
If it's not Folk, Bailey, Cardona.
Joe Cardona disrespect coming from Barth right now.
No, I'm just asking.
That's a fair question because Addington finished the year as the long snapper. But I'm saying no Folk, job, no Bailey, no Cardona.
I think there's a chance. I definitely think there's a chance. Cardona would be the most surprising one to me, even though he is the only one that doesn't have a contract. Kind of when we get to the end of the summer, who's still here. He did go to Navy. I think they see it as
Thank you, Mike. We weren't aware of that.
Did he play lacrosse too? No.
If you're going to overturn the other two, chemistry is so important, right, between those three spots. And to have three brand new guys, and if two of them are going to be rookies, that's asking a lot. So if it was last year, I'd feel a lot better because last year there was actually a long snapper in the draft who was draftable.
Yeah.
This year, not so much.
I told you had to wait.
What an incredible waste of a draft
What do you think it looks like, though? I mean, you signed Jake Bailey to that extension last year. I mean, does that really, if you don't bring him back this year after signing him to that extension, how he's been kind of playing, he's been injured a little bit, he wasn't really in the lineup last year. It looks pretty bad, right? You got to move on from him a year after signing him to that extension. I mean, is that any kind of consideration of we did just sign this guy. They must have liked something about him.
I did give you a little insight into this. They didn't really want to give him that contract in the first place. They were kind of
and thank you very much.
Statistically, though, he's been one of the worst punters in the league for 2 years, and they still gave him the contract. It's a very weird contract.
Last 2021 wasn't as bad. Last year he was bottom 3 in most major categories.
Last year.
Yeah,
so good. And I just got to say, we do have an answer.
It's a weapon in kickoffs, though.
We do have a winning answer, and. To the person who wrote in, Greg Bedard, how dare you? It looks like Addison.
That was tongue in cheek.
Addison Ankrum from Fresno. Looks like he won with Mike Giardi. Yes, Mike Giardi was the. Forget that was a fun day. I remember chatting about that, and she's like, "I wish I could just bar." And then it became a whole we were doing a whole ad of Mike Giardi, curious. Was that
curious?
I'm just curious. He's just a little curious.
Oh boy,
Evan's shaking his head.
This is not football.
No.
But Mike Giardi smells wonderful. He absolutely.
He's a great guy. I'm not going to say he smells wonderful.
He smells so good. I can actually smell him through the TV when he's hosting the.
Can I ask Alex one more real football question and not about Mike Giardi's scent?
Okay.
No, it's not.
We all know Jake Moody.
Yeah.
We all know Michael Turk.
Yeah.
Your guy.
The Turk.
Who's the second best kicker and the second best punter in the draft?
So for them, right, because they like kickers who've kicked in cold weather and all of that.
Right.
I think it's between Noah Ruggles from Ohio State and Chad Ryland of Maryland, who are the two Senior Bowl kickers.
The Maryland guy is the one that Callahan had.
I was going to say, I like Ryland. He got put in some tough spots. There's a lot of close games, so he's kind of got that thing where he's kicked
some clutch kicks.
You're the Ohio State kicker. There's not that much riding on you, right? So
65.
And when there was,
didn't he miss the kick in the college football playoff?
Badly.
Right?
You're right. At midnight.
Badly.
At midnight. That was awesome.
It was
late. I just want to let everybody know I was at a wedding then. I don't know if I've gotten that off my chest enough.
Oh no, we were both watching
really
that at the same time, and I was just like,
two classics, and I'm at a
because
stupid
didn't they
wedding.
milk the clock to give him the they didn't even try to get more
yards.
Yeah,
they probably could have picked up some more yards. They just wanted to kick it. They wanted the kick to line up. If you watch it, somebody synced it up. He kicks the ball as midnight hits.
That's what they cared about.
And there's shots at parties of people
That's the most Patriots thing ever. Only
they
hit it.
They got cute. They're like,
yeah.
If you start Dark Side of the Moon right at the third quarter,
yeah. Bill made sure that it was right as the ball dropped.
I was at a New Year's party.
Did you see his balls dropped? And then he kicked the field goal right as the ball dropped.
I was at a New Year's party, and there were some of us huddled around a phone in the corner watching the game, and we all start cheering, and we hear everybody else cheering. We're like, "Did you turn the game on?" They're like, "No, it's midnight."
Oh,
we were like, "Oh,
you're at a New Year's
that's
party."
That's a football guy, right there.
As for the punter,
serious football guy.
I've been at a lot of New Year's parties watching those college football.
They
games.
need to move it off. I can't wait. They need to move it off midnight. New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, fine. That's fun. New Year's Eve, not so much.
You know, if Alex is complaining about the timing of the game, someone
That's
who
how
is
you know.
you're losing your
no,
your
they get
fan.
they get kind of screwed when it coincides with a weekend because then the NFL is obviously going to get the precedence of the day.
Right. They won't
but
hold
Alex
those
is
teams
right.
on Sundays.
It's better when they can move it off New Year's Eve.
Punter,
Bryce Behringer from Michigan State had a really.
You don't
good
like the
Senior Bowl.
Rutgers punter?
I like the Rucker. He's third.
Ozzy.
He's third. You asked me who the second best was. I thought
true.
Behringer had a really good Senior Bowl.
Well, because Mike and I talked to the Rutgers punter because there's a punter from Rutgers and the Patriots might need a punter.
He's very
come
good
on,
too.
And he was talking about Corsic is his name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was talking about how he's an Aussie style punter, but he also has the regular punt in his bag too, so he can change it up on you. He can do line drive, he can boom it, he can do everything. I'm like, that's like a Bill Belichick.
Here's what you got to remember about Rutgers: that they haven't drafted a player from Rutgers in over a decade.
Yeah,
it's like this thing people say, but look, if there's a year to do it, there's a couple good Rutgers players this year, but it's like not
we were
really
all
a
in
thing.
on Pacheco, Bo Melton, right? Like other Rutgers guys last year that they didn't draft.
Last year would have been a good year for Rutgers.
I'm going to be good. It's late in the show.
All right, let's run back to the phones here real quick as we're coming down the home stretch here on a Thursday show. Let's go over to Raj in Boston. Hey, Raj. Hardy. Dang it.
Good job, Hardy.
Wow, Patty hung on for 40 minutes. Raj could only make it about 10 minutes. And Willem and Philum's out too. I read your email, and that's what you give me. Thanks for nothing. Finally, Jerry from North Carolina. Hello, Jerry.
What's going on?
There he is.
I'm
Makes me laugh
currently
every
sitting
time.
here at work right now, but I have that luxury. I just want to run something by y'all real quick. Question. So, what do y'all think about the Patriots just going all in just for 1 year? Just go all in and sign D-Hop and Odell, give them both 3 years, $60 million deals. That's fully incentive based off of their performance and contribution to the team.
Well, I mean, I'm all in on D-Hop. I don't know. I'll let you guys jump on the other ones, but I'd take D-Hop for sure. I mean, Odell.
I'd take Odell, too.
I would take him. I don't know if you can get both, though.
I don't think they're going to sign both.
Thanks, Jerry.
We had many debates about Hunter Henry versus Jonnu Smith, and they ended up signing both. I'm just saying. I don't know. I don't know about Odell. Odell, that one worries me a little bit coming off the injury. How much does he really have left in the tank? I'm willing to take a flyer on him if it's sort of a pay-as-you-go type of contract.
And he could be an incentive to use his Jerry's example. I mean, Odell Beckham might be in a position where he's not going to get the guaranteed money. He might have to take that. Hopkins isn't.
No. Well, Hopkins...
Why is he giving you a break?
So he was on one of the shows yesterday, and he mentioned that he's not necessarily even looking for a new contract,
right?
Which isn't a bad thing for the team that acquires him because his contract's pretty reasonable for the team that's trading for him. But he's not necessarily in the boat of you need to trade for me and then give me a whole new contract
Which
afterwards.
I believe. Yeah. But he's not in the business of giving money back.
No.
And incentives are giving money back.
No. I think you're trading for Hopkins. I think you're trading for him on that contract. I think it's like 2 years, $54 million, but not all of it's
Sounds
guaranteed. Right. His year one cap hit in this year, I think, would be a little bit over $19 million if you were to acquire him. I think that's what you're looking at with Hopkins.
Well, my apologies to Raj because he was actually just calling in to get a jump on Catch 22. He don't want to talk to us, Paul. He's waiting for these two guys right here. So he's going to hang out for a little bit, about 15 minutes, and he'll wait. Hopefully, you guys can get to him in the first hour.
I've been ignored by better-looking
women. Couple more emails here. Question, and I like this one. Is it possible? This is from Peter. Is it possible Bill trades back in the first round to mid-20s, grabs a bunch of picks, and then grabs a Darnell Wright? Feel better? Gives them a chance to beef up second, third, or fourth round picks for Kuntz, Jack Campbell, Mauk, and some 6'1" cornerbacks. I mean, I talked a lot about with you about this, where it seems like you could get to that point at 14 and you feel like, I don't really like any of the tackles. I'm not really sold maybe on Joey Porter Jr. Christian Gonzalez is already gone, and it's way too early to take JSN or any of the receivers. I could kind of see it, right? I mean, it kind of makes sense to you guys.
This is a classic Belichick trade down draft. I hate that. Like I hate that we're making it this easy on him to do what he wants to do. But yeah, this is a classic Belichick trade down draft in my mind.
Do you say that? I mean, I agree, but do you say that because of the positions that the Patriots are looking for specifically, or because of the talent available specifically?
Yeah, I'm looking at it more of we go back to the blue chip thing, right? Like
that's why I'm asking.
At 14, I want them to come away with a premium talent, like not somebody that is going to fill a role for them and might be a good player throughout the course of his rookie contract. I want them to be in the market for somebody at 14 that we are giving a second contract to, and we're not thinking twice about it, right? Like that's the way that it should be looked at. And if you move down the board, maybe Darnell Wright, who I love, ends up being your right tackle, and he's a stud, and everything works out perfectly fine. But I would much rather stick at 14 and even take a player that is not necessarily a major need, but is still somebody that is in that category of he's just going to be a star.
Yeah.
So the other part two of this. Wait a second, you haven't heard it yet.
Sorry.
Don't give up. A lot of people have said the blue chip thing. There's not a ton of high end talent in this draft, right? I think most experts are in agreement on that. What do they say about the overall depth of the draft? The class itself. Are there a lot of good players? Or
I think at certain positions, like Alex was saying with the combine, you look at corner, you look at tight end. I think tackle, those guys, a lot of them are moving up the board now into the first round conversation. Like Darnell Wright a month ago was a second round pick. He had a great Senior Bowl, had a great combine. Now all of a sudden he's like the end of the first round, early second. I think tackle has some really good talent in the first 50 picks. I don't know about the depth. And then I would also point to edge. Like Alex, I mean, we've looked at edge maybe not as like a big need for the Patriots, but you look at top 50, like there could be
Brandon Bean.
It's my blind spot.
Really talked highly of.
Yeah,
it was corners, tight ends, edge.
Because edge has in this draft, like you mentioned, like there's not a ton of those big. There's no Jamar Chase at receiver. There's no those players, but Will Anderson is one of those guys at edge, and then it goes all the way back into the second and third round with options there as well. So I think that edge is a really strong class as well.
This is a classic Fred and Paul day 2-ish of the draft argument. Just to get us through when we're starting. It's starting to hit in. The 5-hour energies have worn off. That's a very common thing. Let's trade down, Alex. Right? Let's move down and get extra picks. And I always say, well, that's great in theory, and I like the idea. But now you're telling me that the overall strength of this class isn't great. So now we're going to add more picks in a not so great, top end of the draft. Or the second part of that is, if I have a lot of picks like the Patriots typically do, and certainly do this year with 11, why not package some of those picks to move up a little bit? And I'm not saying from 14. You don't have to make a big splash trade, but why not take a couple of your lower picks and move up and better ensure that you get what a lot of people say is a smaller class of high-end talent?
Well, let me give you, in terms of trading up, you talk about this is a classic Bill Belichick trade down in the first draft.
Yeah, and I see it. I understand what people are talking about.
I also think the class really suggests towards making one of those Christian Barmore trades. I think there's going to be a lot of players who are good who they would like, who are going to go in that 32 to 40 range. Yes. Guys like Darnell Washington, guys like Jahmyr Gibbs, right? Players like that. Josh Downs, the wide receiver from UNC. So do they make a move maybe up in the second round instead of up in the first round? Right. The other thing I'd say in terms of the trading the pick and trading down, so if they make the move for Hopkins, right, it sounds like the price is going to be a second-round pick. Do they try to do a best-of-both-worlds thing? You trade 46 for Hopkins, you then trade down from 14 to 20 and get for a pick back in the top 50. So you still have your first and second, and you get Hopkins. You just move down a little in the first.
That's sort of what I didn't want to throw too many trades into my mock draft and get too crazy with it. But that's kind of where I was going with it, is because I think Anton Harrison is a perfect guy that I would probably rather take in the 20s. But he's talented enough. If you have to take him at 14, I'd be okay with him at 14. But you move down, take an Anton Harrison, take a Darnell Wright, take a DeJuan Jones, who we both really like from Ohio State, in the 20s, and then maybe replenish some of the picks that you get from trading for a receiver like Hopkins.
I just think you look at those 3 4th-round picks, which are kind of sporadic, and you can package that second rounder with one of those fourths and really get wherever you want in the second round. So I think that the potential is there. That's what I did in my mock, was I went up to get somebody that you really like in that early.
What was it for Barmore? I think it was a second and 2/5.
Is that what it was?
I think so. It might have been a second and 2/4, but they can.
We love the trade-ups.
They have the assets.
We love
for
the
it.
elimination.
You know what we don't love? A lot of 6th and 7th round picks, and they got about 4 of them right now.
They don't have any 7ths.
Yeah, they have one. Well, they're projected.
They're projected for one. You're right. A comp pick.
That was really where they got. Paul, this is one time where it didn't all work out for the Patriots, okay? Because J.C. Jackson was supposed to be
chess and checkers?
J.C. Jackson was supposed to be a third-round comp pick when he was supposed to be the top
Oh,
third-round
you're talking
comp
about
pick.
the comp picks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now they're going to probably get a fourth-round comp pick for J.C. because he didn't play enough.
Because he didn't play. Yeah.
Okay, which I don't think is fair. Like, you gave him the contract. Like, that the comp picks are based on the contract.
Right, because you lost the guy. Don't
Like,
matter to
I'm
you how
sorry,
he played.
Chargers, that he didn't play. Like, that's not our problem. That's
Comp
your
picks
problem.
in general are in my top 5 of the worst things about football.
I like the comp picks.
I think it's absurd that you encourage teams to let their players go. So you say, I'm going to give you extra draft picks because you don't want to pay your players, and you're just going to let them go.
But
it's like baseball. Like, how many times in that, like, the last 10, 15 years, and they've altered some of these rules because of it.
Well, the whole baseball draft's a mess.
He tried to explain the baseball draft to me
No, if
one
you make
time,
a qualifying offer to a guy, then you can just let him go. Well, why should you reward a team for letting their free agents go?
Yeah, I understand where
hate
you're
it.
coming from, but if they get if that comp pick does hit at the end of the fourth round, I don't. It's kind of a free pick. Like, here you go. Like, here's a fourth round pick, and if you end up putting that into a deal where you package something to either move up or it goes to Arizona for DeAndre Hopkins, like, I don't hate that. Like, it's not really. You still have 2 other fourth round picks, by the way, that you can use in the fourth round.
They're projected to have 11 picks. You should be able to do a lot of Bill Belichick maneuvering.
I also think it's kind of too many picks. Like, if you just look at the amount of guys that they have on their roster, you expect them to sign some free agents as well with the cap space that they have. They could definitely consolidate picks. They probably should consolidate picks.
There were a lot of votes for Phil Perry in the T-shirt contest, the smell, which I get.
I could see that.
A couple for Mike Reese.
Because Megan, see, you also get, every once in a while you get a peek into the soul when Megan was on the show. Megan found Phil Perry extremely handsome.
Along with, she was obsessed with Maglio Ordonez.
Yes.
She loved the White Sox.
That's 'cause she's a White Sox homer.
2 very different types of people.
But, like, she just, like, let it slip out one day, like, on the air.
He's very
by accident.
attractive.
Like, I mean, he's very attractive. and we told, of course, we ran and told Phil.
You gotta just keep smelling it now.
She was the best. I miss Megan. I'm going to do one more question. Just this one coming from Cody in Indiana. He's like, do you think it's wrong for me to want Devin McCourty to retire rather than lace him up for one more year? I think he can still play at a reasonable level, but I just think it's time for a changing of the guard in the locker room, and his presence may stifle some of the younger would-be leaders. What would you prefer, that he retire or play one more season?
It's a great question.
I mean, we're kind of waiting to hear. I know, and I hear it. I said the same thing of at what point are you going to kind of create a vacuum of sorts that a young new leadership structure has to step up, and at what point do hearing from the guys who won a Super Bowl 5 years ago, when does that start to be like, you're just kind of the old guys now? You're not. This isn't ringing true to us. I just don't want that to happen. I'm not saying that is, but I do wonder about that of you got these kind of holdovers in McCourty and Slater still kind of preaching what was preached here. For a long time, of course, it worked, but, is that message still fresh, and are people still buying it? That's my question. And no one else's.
No, I think it's the way the emailer,
I don't think you're wrong. I see the point, yeah.
We all love McCourty.
Right.
He could still play. I mean, I don't think he's what he was, but he could still play. He's not a detriment out there. I don't have any idea of how to quantify his ability to get everybody on the same page in the back end. Will that be the same if it's...
Yeah.
I just look at
somebody else.
When I watch defenses around the league, the Patriots consistently have the fewest busted coverages out of any defense. Like, they might get guys, everybody's going to get beat every once in a while. And a one-on-one matchup, they might get beat.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
But
you're not talking about someone getting 3 yards behind the guy covering him.
Right.
You're talking about uncovered.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen a lot with the Patriots.
No, it doesn't. And I think that obviously it
and I
speaks
give
to
him credit for that.
The head coach, but you have to give some of it to him.
And I go back to 2012 when I felt like it was, and he, as a rookie, had been in a corner and there was talk of him moving to safety. And then I was at that Seattle game in 2012 where it was like bombs away on Tavon Wilson, and that was the need. You're like, man, we need a back end guy. I didn't really even see it at the time, that McCourty was going to be that guy.
Because he was still a corner then.
Right. No, I know. That's what, what I mean? You had no idea.
He got eviscerated that season as a corner.
We're about to wrap up, but I got to ask Alex. I just want to know, Alex, just a couple draft guys. Like, who are a couple favorites of your guys? Just curious. Who is really
crushes.
I'm on this
to the
guy.
podcast so you find out.
No, I don't want to do that.
Why should they give it away for free? free.
Yeah, because people who listen already know I've talked about these guys enough. I really like DeJuan Jones from Ohio State. How does he fit with the Patriots? They probably need more of a left tackle, and he's a right tackle, but 6'7", 375, moves like a basketball player. Evans heard me say this. My comp for him is Tariq Woolen in the sense that Woolen had all the measurables, still went in the 5th round. It almost felt like people looked at him and just thought it's all too good to be true. I kind of feel like people are doing the same thing with DeJuan Jones. Everything about his makeup tells you he should be a stud, and there's still people saying it maybe goes in the top 50. Like, what are we doing? Don't overthink it. I really like Zach Kuntz, the tight end from Old Dominion.
And we can do that, right? Like if he catches a pass, we go, Kuntz.
Yeah. Even as far as the draft goes, he's an unknown. Didn't play last year, but again, it's same thing. 6'8", 255, 4.55, 40-inch vertical. There's something there. Just bring him in and figure it out. Josh Downs is my favorite slot receiver. I just think he's so technically sound. It's just, I think he's going to have a very low learning curve compared to some of the other receivers. I think that's it for now.
Cornerback?
Yeah.
You got a corner.
Oh, duh. Julius Brents. That was like the first guy I was in on.
Yeah.
Big Julius Brents guy.
He turned me into a Julius Brents fan. I watched Kuntz yesterday, did my deep dive into him yesterday.
Waiting on that Twitter thread.
And I texted him like, fun player. And he was like, fun player? Come on.
Well, because hopefully we have the audio. When we talked about him on the show 2 weeks ago, when I brought him up, Evan could not have sounded more disgusted when I brought up Zach Kuntz and Darnell Washington.
Because
he was so disinterested.
I get that a lot.
Yeah, I figure. You guys know.
Zach Kuntz from Old Dominion. And I texted him yesterday, and I was like, this is the guy that they overdraft. Like, this is the guy. And that's why I'm already
I'm going to say this, and I'll end up being wrong and then get made fun of, and Matt can play it on a loop. They ain't drafting a tight end from Old Dominion.
So he actually
not only Old Dominion, Penn State.
To be fair, he started at Penn State. He started at Penn State.
That's different.
But all of his production came.
No,
at
it's
Old
the same.
Dominion.
They never draft Penn State guys.
No, but I'm just saying he came from a real program, had the ability to be at a real program.
Oh, yeah.
Like they'll take a late round flyer off some guy from a small, like the Sam Roberts last year. But not with
the guy that we
meaningful pick.
Well, except UT Chattanooga, Paul.
Yeah, and
I mean, now you're preaching to the choir.
And you only had to replace him in 4 different games.
You're preaching to the choir.
PFF tells me how great he was, but
Kuntz,
the coach didn't agree.
Kuntz is your perfect 3rd round tight end prospect, though, that just is a freak athlete, and you hope that it almost like George Kittle's, in the league, where all of a sudden he just blossoms into a great player.
Mike Gesicki's the guy I've used kind of as the comp.
Gesicki's a good comp.
All right, well, Paul and Deuce got to get out of here, but you got plenty more of Evan and Barth coming at you here. We will be back next week. Of course, Monday, the tampering period opens, so we will be on high alert for any emergency podcast, big news, anything like that. But if not...
We do an emergency podcast for tampering?
Oh, yeah, that's right. We didn't do one for James Ferentz today.
Well,
I don't know.
It's legal tampering now.
No, I know, but...
We'll say a disclaimer. That'll fix everything.
I think Tuesday we'll get you up to date on the tampering, and then I'll let you guys carry it through the rest of the week because I'm going to watch March Madness. I'm out, Brink.
Stick around for Catch 22. We will catch you on Tuesday.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.
The world's original podcast.